according to law. So help me God.
It's happened before, but it is nonetheless still rather extraordinary that somebody who was only elected or officially sworn in as an MP less than 24 hours ago, in 3 weeks' time, is going to be running the country.
Yes, I think it is rather extraordinary. I think the issue isn't whether someone like that should automatically have to hold a general election. If Andy Burnham wants to introduce major changes to our constitution, he's talked about overhauling the House of Lords. He's also talked about overhauling our electoral system, bringing in some form of PR. I think if he wants to do any of those things, he needs a mandate from the public to do them. To try and do them without calling an election, I think, would be a constitutional outrage.
I've got an interesting tweet. There's always a tweet, Julia.
Yep.
If I can just read this out to you from Andy Burnham 3 years ago. We need to start demanding a general election at the end of this Tory leadership election. Well, well, well. That was Andy Burnham actually 4 years ago in 2022. So we're saying stick by your word, be consistent, Andy, and when you're Prime Minister, call a general election.
Look, the battle is really on, though, for number 11. Who's going to be the Chancellor? Ed Miliband, don't forget, has played an integral key role in this coup, and it is a coup because no one apart from 25,000 good people of Makerfield have voted for this guy. Yeah. So he's played a pretty integral role in undermining Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer and Ed Miliband aren't really speaking. He's going to want a big reward. But, you know, he is, you know, probably the most left-wing person in the government, and he will spook the markets.
Lou Hay, I mean, the reality is, look, she served her time. You know, she was cast out of government. The reality is, as you said, she has been central to his campaign. She was central to his campaign in Makerfield. More broadly, she's been central to his campaign to enter Downing Street. He owes her, and she will definitely get a role. I'm not.
What do you say to the people that have texted me in their droves this morning? This is a really a corny sentence, but it's true. That lawbreakers can't be lawmakers, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, but the reality is she's going to get a job. So the answer is yes, they can.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you. Just gone 6 o'clock. What is it? Thursday, the 25th of June, and the big first question to you as we return with Common Sense Talk. Did you sleep last night? Poppy Coburn's here. She's going to do the papers with me just to take. She didn't sleep a wink. It was that hot. I've got many tips. You know all those people that go, oh, put a towel around your neck. Just go to sleep, wake up. It's going to be fine tomorrow. Welcome to the show. Hope you're OK. Don't know what you're doing. Are you up and at it, alarm clock Britsy, on the way back from a night shift as ever, if you want to be on the show? Tommy the Legs, as we call him now. I found out today, Tommy the Legend, 25 tomorrow, professional dancer, flower. I mean, the man's got talents you wouldn't even believe. He's on the phones, 0344 499 1000. You can use that same number to voice note. Christian, the legend, is here. The boss. He's the man in a striped shirt. 0344 499 1000. You can text the show as well. 87222. What are you waking up to? Oh, the usual stuff. The Donald's put his foot in it. I love it. Donald has said Andy Burnham is, I think he's extremely liberal. He's a mayor of a town somewhere in England. Yeah, that'd be Manchester. And he said, basically, Burnham it needs to open up the North Sea. I mean, is he going to? If I was Andy Burnham, I'd do it, but probably won't be able to. There was a great thing yesterday with Kemi Badenoch in the Commons. Final Prime Minister's question times, I think, for Starmer, before, obviously, he's cast aside. Apparently, overnight, the Sun's reporting that Keir Starmer will stay on as an MP. Why? Nobody's going to talk to you. But anyway, so Kemi decided to go for the jugular. But what she did was she turned, and it was brilliant, she turned her ire on the Labour benches and the front benches and all the people that have failed. And specifically on that, sorry, I don't like Bridget Phillipson. I think she's got a look about her. And there was one line which was, you're a spiteful class warrior, which is about education, which completely sent Phillipson into raptures to the point where she and Kendall approached Badenoch outside the chamber and they had strong words. This was Kemi Badenoch. I have to applaud her yesterday. I thought she was fantastic. Have a watch.
Hands up if you think the education secretary is doing a good job. Even she doesn't think she's doing a good job, Mr. Speaker. she's doing a good job. Just, someone did. Just for those who raised their hands, the two people who raised their hands, yesterday a poll found that 0% of teachers think the education secretary is doing a good job. 0%. She taxed private schools to pay for more teachers, but the number of teachers has gone down. It turns out appointing a spiteful class warrior as education secretary was a disaster.
You cannot say to the left that they're class warriors and they're spiteful. She went off on one, Kendall went off on one, and then she delivered another line, which was, "You've all just shafted Starmer for a man." This is what she described Andy Burnham. A man with black eyelashes and a black or a pair of dodgy eyelashes and a black T-shirt. Burnham then responds on Twitter. Look at this. This is him responding to Badenoch. This is brilliant, brilliant.
It's dark blue, actually.
My only concern about that... Actually, I'm going to bring Poppy Coburn in because Christian pointed something out then that I'm slightly worried about. Good morning, Poppy.
Good morning.
No sleep?
No.
Are you grumpy?
Am I grumpy? No, I'm just sleep deprived. But I will have a few coffees and we'll see how we are.
Can we get a coffee for me? A shot of coffee. Does not being with me at this time in the morning fill you with inspiration and laughter?
I will wake up over the next hour. My body doesn't actually think I've gone to sleep yet, so this is just fully into the night.
When you get to my age, you have to wake up 3 times a night to have a wee, so it makes no difference. No, that's what happens. I know you find
like
that
a pregnant woman.
You probably, just an old thing. By the way, please get involved. Can we talk about Kemi Badenoch?
Yeah.
I mean, not increasingly, her performances get better and better. Yeah. But what I loved was the left sat there smugly. She turned on Rachel Reeves and went, and you know, you lived next to him and he gave you the second most powerful job in the world, Starmer, and you couldn't even go and stand there when he was saying he was resigning. You were out fawning to Andy Burnham. But when she turned her eye on Bridget Phillips, it was fantastic, wasn't it?
Bridget clearly has a very high opinion of herself.
Yeah.
Because you can see this from
Not
before.
shared by many in the country.
Not shared by many in the country. You could tell this when Kemi Badenoch made a kind of joke about her being the Gestapo, and she went, "The Gestapo killed thousands of people. I'm just putting more investment into the state sector." And it's like, you cannot take a joke. You do not understand when someone is ribbing you. And this is exactly what happened yesterday. Kemi Badenoch is, in a kind of slightly bawdy fashion, taking the mickey out of Bridget Phillipson.
Did she go too far, Badenoch?
No, it's politics.
Yeah.
You're not friends. You're opposite sides of the piles at the end of the day. You're not friends, you don't get on with each other. If Bridget Phillipson's going to make it personal and get upset and try and get Liz Kendall to back her up, then I think she's childish. She should go back to school.
Well, no, there aren't any places. So at the back of the Speaker's chair, after the fact that Badenoch said that, apparently they had a bit of a scuffle. I mean, extraordinary.
Well, that implies they had a bust-up,
They had a bust-up for Phillipson. You know, it is interesting. If you look at all of the Labour front branch, they're all positioning themselves. Let's talk about Andy Burnham. Haven't seen you since this happened. Trump overnight describing him as... Let's just see this clip. Brilliant. This is Donald Trump on the incoming Prime Minister. There hasn't been nominations yet, but he's going to be the next PM. This is Trump on Burnham.
Know about who?
The new incoming Prime Minister, Andy Burnham.
I don't know anything. I see that he was, I guess, the mayor of a town. I hear he's extremely liberal. Extremely. So that means he probably won't open up the North Sea. You know, I gave Keir Starmer some pretty good advice. I said, open up the North Sea. Go to Aberdeen, which was the hottest city in the whole continent. It was the oil city. It was the oil of Europe. And they closed everything. It was terrible. I saw it before my eyes, and I couldn't believe it. The North Sea is loaded. I have had every oil company come to see me. Sir, could you give us access to the UK? We would do anything to drill in the North Sea. And they haven't even found what's there. The amazing thing is they buy their oil from Norway, which gets the oil from the North Sea. Think of it. And they pay a big premium. Norway's got now $2 trillion in the bank, and UK is dying.
I mean, I'm sorry, what a but he's absolutely spot on right. Forget the personal stuff about Andy Burnham. He's absolutely right about North Sea oil. It's that old thing. We've got all this oil, and it's worth billions, and we won't touch it for environmental issues or because Red Ed Miliband thinks it's against his theories, and yet Norway are drilling it, and we're buying it off from twice the cost.
Well, look at the difference between the UK and America. when we look at their Liberal politicians, this is someone who I don't agree with on much, which is Barack Obama. He made a very intelligent decision a long time ago, which is there's shale gas in America, there's loads of it, all under the bedrock, right? And he went, let's go after that, because what America needs after the wars in the Middle East, after, you know, the OPEC crisis in the 70s, they wanted to be energy independent. And now energy is too cheap to meter in America. It's why they're having this AI boom. It's why the economy is actually growing at 2% a year, and there's loads of jobs being made for people, because they have cheap energy, which is boosting industry. Now, in the UK, Ed Miliband and his pals have decided to go in the opposite direction. They have given us the most expensive industrial energy costs in Europe.
But how does that... help me out, right? If whatever a net zero zealot who he was described in the Mail yesterday as Miliband, or however you firmly believe that to be true, the facts are what you just said. Cheap energy builds growth and helps businesses become successful, which filters down into the economy and creates jobs and everything. If you are saddling people with ridiculous energy bills in your quest for something that, frankly, the rest of the world doesn't care about, you are not going to have growth, and ultimately you will fail. How pig-headed is that as an attitude?
Well,
seriously.
Even with this discussion about renewables, well, I'm not anti-renewables. If it works, it works. But the problem is that they're not actually going for what works, they're going for what's ideologically convenient. Ed Miliband talks a lot about China. I've noticed this. China is going to be the future. It's a renewable state. We don't want to be with petro-states like America. Well, I've been to China. You know what China does? It also has energy too cheap to meter because it uses every form of energy. So yes, it has solar panels, it kind of has wind farms, it uses nuclear energy, it uses coal power energy, it uses gas, it uses oil, it uses everything it needs to boost the economy, because the Chinese leaders understand that that is the #1 priority for their country. That's what the American leaders too understand. What is the cheapest thing for our economy so it can grow? In the UK, it's about sending a message.
Sending a message to who?
Well, why would anyone look at Britain right now and look at the sorry state we're in and go, oh, we should really copy them. They're doing brilliantly.
Nobody. Absolutely nobody. Let's talk about Burnham. I haven't seen you since this extraordinary coup, which, I mean, I don't even know if it turned out to happen as people thought it was. I was saying yesterday, the nominations haven't even opened. And he's going to be the Prime Minister. Genuinely, I have strong thoughts. We've talked about it already about whether that's right or not. Even by-elections, I think should be called if people change party. What do you make of Andy Burnham? Do you know anything about Andy Burnham?
Andy Burnham's long career in politics, because he's a career politician. He's been in
25 years, isn't it?
His whole life, If he is consistent in one thing, it's being inconsistent. He is Mr. Flip-Flop. He was a Blairite when that was popular. He was a Brownite when that was popular. He moved to the left when he seemed like that was his way of getting back into the party. And now he seems to be coming closer to being Prime Minister. He's moving back to the soft left or to the Labour right. He is not someone who is led by principles. Ultimately, what Andy Burnham wants is to be loved. He wants to be nice. He wants the party to back him. He doesn't want to end up like Keir Starmer, isolated and alone. And frankly, I do not think that is what makes a good leader. OK, if you're not capable of having some kind of ideological backing where you can make tough decisions for the good of the country, you're going to fail. But, and here's a big but, he's better than Starmer. Not that that's hard, but he is better than Starmer. And I think there's a lot of Labour politicians who, at least with Starmer, thought, well, if he's been a disaster, then we can at least get someone else in. But now they've got Burnham, that's the last chance saloon. They can't get rid of Burnham. They know that. They know that they're stuck with Burnham now. This is the last chance for the Labour Party. So they will back him to the hilt until the end. OK, so you talk about ideology. Let's give the guy a chance. I'm a patriot, right? What's happened's happened. Does he have the balls, the conviction, the ideological headspace to say it is patently obvious that the welfare budget needs to be decimated? Does he have the strength of character to say we need to drill in the North Sea? Does he have the strength of character to say, not just say, but spend money and find money to arm this country? Does he have the nous to work out that a majority of British people, 1,000,000%, I believe this, are fed up with our problems in terms of immigration and do something about it? Or will those very people who you say will back him to the hilt hamper him? What's going to happen when Andy Burnham stands in front of 400 Labour MPs and when Keir Starmer tried to cut the welfare benefit budget by £5 billion
it needs cutting by 50. You're telling me they're going to support him? Because for me, yes, great, he looks great, and I'm sure there'll be a honeymoon bounce. I don't think this changes what the Labour Party are.
I completely agree with you. I just don't think he has to hold on for that long to be damaging to a future opposition. If he can hold the party together for 2 years, 2 years and calls an election, that's enough to keep the Labour Party alive. Here's what I think he's going to do.
Would they have died under Starmer?
Yes, I think so.
Has the Tory party died?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Conservative Party's dead. I think you can see that at the local election results. I think Kemi, look, she's a good politician, she performs well on PMQs, but...
But they won Aberdeen the other day.
That is the sort of thing that the Liberal Party would have won in the 20th century, where they would have come through as a third way.
She so put me in my place. I actually enjoyed that. You're absolutely right.
Well, look, maybe I'm proven wrong, but I hear from a lot of Tories telling me that the party's coming back, and then I look at the polling results and I go, is it? Really? Can you show me where? Could you show me where it's coming back?
Yeah.
Because that, to me, doesn't feel like it's a comeback. It feels to me like it's, you know, you're on life support and you get another little, you know, mark on their heart monitor machine. But anyway...
yeah, brilliant.
That's the depressing thing about
You're just tuning in. Sorry about that.
What I think is going to happen with Burnham is I think he's going to do some welfare reform, but it will be almost meaningless for public finances. It will be very, very, very small. It will not be the package that Starmer produced and then backed down on. He will not do a thing about North Sea oil, because he's discussing whether or not he wants to make Ed Miliband his chancellor. So he's definitely not doing anything about that.
Well, there's a report today, actually, front page of your paper, which literally has just arrived. Burnham calls on Miliband as Chancellor. Isn't the truth that Andy Burnham is now going to find himself in exactly the same position as Starmer, that he's got to placate all the people all the time? I'm not, by the way, I'm not naively saying that he's going to fall on his backside. I think he's an infinitely better opportunity than Starmer. But my thing is, has he got the balls to make the decisions? This isn't just 400 Labour MPs. And we look at Makerfield, and sure, you know, Reform's answer was that people literally went and voted for Burnham from Labour and Tory and Reform, quite literally to get Starmer out. That's like Johnson. You get Brexit done. I loved that thing in the paper yesterday. I was talking about this on the show. About Sarah Vine in the Mail, who said that Andy Burnham is the Labour Party's equivalent to Boris Johnson. You need to scrape the surface and find out. What I'm saying to you is, as much as he might hold the party together, is he going to turn the tide? Is he going to have people believing that Labour actually want to make this country better? Does he believe in growth? Does he believe in opportunity? Does he... No, he's going to believe in what the state always does under Labour, which is offer lots of money that they haven't got. Isn't that true?
I think the one thing we can bet on, regardless of who is made Chancellor, and there are quite a few contenders, is that taxes are going to rise. Because Andy Burnham is going to want to provide something to that base when he becomes Prime Minister. He's not going to be able to just come in there and say, I inherited a really difficult situation, so things are just going to carry on as they were before.
He's got to do something.
He's going to have to do something, and I think he'll probably do what every Labour Party Prime Minister does, which is a bung towards his voter group. What group in particular that's going to be, I'm not sure at this stage, but he's definitely not going to start with pragmatic cuts. He is definitely not going to do that. That is not the man that Andy Burnham is. Yeah, I even think he might end up giving some money for defence, but it will always be small figures, and it will be handed out incrementally. It will never actually make a difference. It will not be enough to meaningfully change the fortunes of this country, but it will be enough so he can say, I've done it. I think he's a better politician than Starmer.
Is he a shrewder politician than Starmer?
Without a doubt.
Is that difficult?
Well, even that video, you know, that silly video of him battering his eyelashes.
I liked it, although Christian said he looked like he was looking below his T-shirt.
But the reason that video is important is, can you imagine Keir Starmer doing that?
Well, it's really weird that you say this. If you are watching on YouTube, Kevin Badenoch said, and they've shafted this man in return for a pair of eyebrows and a black T-shirt. So he's done a little video, if you're not watching, where he just looks to the camera and goes, It's actually dark blue. One wonders how many takes, but he's done it. Listen, I don't know the bloke, and I probably won't like his politics, but that made me smile when I saw that, because I thought at least you've got a sense of bloody humour, man.
He's got a sense of humour. He's got a bit more charm. You know, Starmer towards the end, I was watching him on stage and thinking, is he going to start crying? You know, he looked miserable to be there.
It was yesterday at Prime Minister's question time. The shackles are off. Why don't all Prime Ministers actually behave like they do when they've been sacked? But Guy will say, and this is a really interesting... Morning, both. Whatever Burnham looks like or sounds like, he will tax and spend this country into oblivion, because at the end of the day, that's what the Labour Party does.
Yeah, it is.
And that's a really relevant point, isn't it?
And Labour, I can't impress this strongly enough. If you talk to Labour MPs, they think this is their last chance as a mainstream party.
Yeah,
they really think
they do.
They think they're up against the wall, and that means that they are desperate. And I'm not sure a desperate Labour Party is the sort of party I want running the country, because it makes me think that a lot of very radical ideas have been on the ground. Here's one that Andy Burnham said on the 30th of May that he stood by, so that's not that long ago, although it is Andy Burnham, so he could have changed his mind. Proportional representation.
Yep.
They might change the voting system. Seriously. They might go, we are never, ever going to get into power again under first past the post. So here's how we're going to stop the right from taking control in this country. We're going to change the voting system. We're going to introduce an Assembly of Regions of Nations. We're going to equalise funding across the country so it doesn't just stay in London.
It's true.
There is so much that they could do, actually, in this desperate moment for the party that could actually help their fortunes. And I think people are underpricing that Labour could have its polling, for the first time since Starmer's taken government, actually go up.
That might happen, but I will also maintain, not because I'm disagreeing with you, I will also maintain that the British public, not just alarm clock Brits, them absolutely, but all of us have woken up to politicians. We've woken up to the games, the lack of conviction, the ones who want a career. And I think the silent majority have worked out that their voice counts. And I'm not saying that the cabal that is the Labour Party might not do terrible things for the next 3 years under Burnham, but the way he got in, the way elections have happened, the way that politicians are far more answerable, it will fall on him as well. Yeah. 7 politicians. That cat, Larry, has survived 7 PMs. Did you see that the other day? It's extraordinary. It's been there 15 years. What I'm saying is I don't think the British people will be fubbed anymore. PS, is that a name? Is that right? So does this... I thought it was PS, what the... Anyway, this is PS on politics. Good morning.
Morning, comrades. Hopefully it'll be cracking the flag soon. Obviously not the English flag. That wouldn't be acceptable. In my opinion, we need to bring in a rule similar to the US where MPs are only allowed to serve through 2 parliaments, limiting their life in public office to a maximum of 10 years across any type of political role. That way we get all these career politicians off the taxpayer-funded gravy train of political life. And also it encourages some fresh thinking and new ideas and brings in people with slightly more commercial acumen.
That was very... He called me a comrade. That slightly worried me. Thank you, PS. Voice notes as ever, 87... No, that's the text. 8722. Start your message with the word talk, and, of course, 0344 499 1000. Poppy, under Burnham, if it's the same tired faces running different departments, isn't it just shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic, says Graham in Bushy?
Fundamentally, yeah, I do agree with that.
No, I agree. So what I want after the break from you is I want who you think's going to get the highest jobs in the Burnham government, because there was comment yesterday that all 4 of the biggest offices of state will go to women because, yet again, the Labour Party has employed a white male as its leader. 6:23. Oh, God. Now, right. Rob, you know Rob who sent that text, the voice note the other day, and it went viral? He apparently is already more angry than ever this morning. OK, so pin back your luggles. Rob is on.
Morning, Jez. Rob, on his way to work, loving the show, and that very, very nice lady beside you. Hello. Anyway, let's get on with Burnham. The man has got less spine than a jellyfish. He will not do one thing that is required of him. It will all be sleight of hand. He will do things to make you think he's actually doing something, but really, he won't be doing anything. He'll just be rearranging the cards on the table. He ain't going to upset all his commie fan base that have their picture took with him. He ain't going to upset all the people that want more and more people on benefits and they want to take more of the hard-earned taxpayers' money. Even though I think we're at about a 50-50 ratio in this country, with half of the people are government funded or on the dole and the other half are slogging their nuts off in this heat like I am, but that's by the by. The man won't do anything. If he's got half a brain, the first thing he'd do is get hold of Miliband and throw him out a window. We don't want none of that crap. Drill for oil, drill for gas, let's open the furnaces, re-industrialise Britain and make it great again. Make a roar of a lion. Let's put the pride back in this country, get people back to work and do what we did best. Innovation and absolutely brilliant industrialisation. Let's do it.
Brexit was never an end point, right?
Yeah.
The establishment didn't want to put in place the mechanisms for accountability for our own domestic politicians to be
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 6:26. Angry Rob, that's fantastic, Angry Rob. He's become a bit of a... Do you think we should get him into paper review, Pops? Angry Rob?
Angry Rob. I think that would certainly wake everyone up in the morning.
It certainly would. Morning, Jez. Morning, the lovely Poppy. Kemi was brilliant at PMQs yesterday. She didn't go too far. She just said it as it is. The Labour outrage is pathetic. They can dish it out, but they can't take it. Somebody said, old Bridget Phillipson can give it out, but doesn't like it up. It's true. Jez, it does not matter what Kemi says or does. She is still the leader of the Conservatives. The country does not forgive them. The Conservatives are pointless and will be decimated the next election, as will Labour. Morning to Sharon. Nice, from Staffordshire. Morning, Jez. Kemi was absolutely fantastic at PMQs yesterday. She's right. Phillipson is an awful, spiteless class warrior. If she was brought up in a council estate, then she is an embarrassment like me, well, not like me, she says, to anyone that comes from a council estate. Julian goes further. Ding dong, Poppy's on.
Ding dong, Poppy's on.
He's just excited that you're here. Poppy's not that excited this morning. If I'm tuning in, she didn't sleep last night. She's a bit grumpy this morning.
You know what? I'm feeling very grumpy towards Ed Miliband and his crusade against air conditioning, and I'm feeling even more grumpy towards myself for not immediately buying aircon, a portable unit, for when I moved into the new flat.
So I bit of aircon upstairs, but I decided to buy, or try and buy, basically through Sean, because I can't do anything. So I rang Sean and I said, I need a couple of aircon units for downstairs, and he said, yes, I've got two. They won't be coming until July the 17th, by which time it'll be raining, so we're not doing that. Hi, JK. If only Nigel was in opposition, Kemi may have done a good performance. People would be so much better. Perhaps Starmer would have been gone months ago. That's Christina Guyby. Morning, Jess. Morning, Poppy. Sunny in Scotland. Kemi can score with an open goal, but what happens when Burnham arrives? Interesting. And sure, angry Burnham is just another carbon copy of Keith Starlin with dyed hair. He will be crap. Andy Burnham says he hasn't dyed his hair. 6:28.
First lie of a new politician.
He might have. Can we just talk about the cabinet? Because I love doing this with you, and I didn't talk about it. There's a story today about him cooling, as I said on the front page of your paper, cooling on Miliband as chancellor. There are lots of different scenarios. There was an argument yesterday put forward, wasn't there, Christian, that he might consider giving the 4 highest states of office to women. What do you? Let me throw them at you. Home Secretary, does Shabana Mahmood stay?
I think the fact that Andy Burnham's come out in the last couple of days and says that he doesn't back her ILR reforms would very heavily suggest to me that she's getting shuffled out, because I know that she is a favourite of a lot of people who are outside of the Labour Party, because she has been a competent minister, but there is no love for her amongst the backbenchers. She's very politically isolated, and I can again see that as being a classic Burnham, like, here's a bung to, you know, the backbenchers to show that I'm on your side.
But you're not going to cast her aside completely, are you?
No, I'm sure she'll get shuffled into another ministerial role, but it won't be a priority one. You know, I can see her being
put in. Is that what you think?
I really think so. I think when he was campaigning in Makerfield, it did seem like he was going to back her, because he, you know, Mr. Flip-Flop, he was pretending he was quite tough on immigration. He was talking about how HMOs were a scandal, etc., etc. But the last couple of days, it's like he's really changed his tune. And I think Shabana is feeling a little bit nervous that she's not going to be put in that position for
Chancellor of the Exchequer, Wes Streeting makes a pitch, Ed Miliband makes a pitch. They all want that job. Businesses yesterday coming out saying, don't give it to Red Ed. Streeting, 14 milliseconds after Starmer resigned, fell in behind Burnham. What do you think?
So I'm really torn on this, actually, because I would have said I was leaning towards Ed Miliband, but some of the personnel decisions that Andy Burnham's been making have been from people to the right of the Labour Party.
So his new Chief of Staff will be James Purnell, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just waking up, and James Purnell was part of the Blair government.
Yeah, and Lord O'Neill as well, you know, he's someone who's on the Labour right, he's a Blairite himself. I think that probably suggests to me that Wes Streeting is going to be put in to calm the nerves of the bond markets. After some of the statements he's made, I think Wes Streeting will be seen as a safe pair of hands. And also, the thing about Ed Miliband, you know, I've said this before on the show, he's a very powerful minister. He's quite good at outsmarting prime ministers. That's what he's done under Keir Starmer.
Did you keep him close or did you cast him aside? Because you'd have him out of energy in a heartbeat, wouldn't you?
Well, I think he's going to keep him there. I really think he's going to keep him. I think that's going to be the deal, because he's going to be like, look, you said you wanted this role. You've been preparing for this role for about 10 years. You have done a good job under your own metrics as energy
So we're not going to drill in the North Sea, baby? We're not going to... I didn't mean to say baby to me. You didn't drill baby to... That's not happening.
No, absolutely not.
Drill Bernie drill.
I would like to hear him do something like that, but no, it's not going to happen.
Foreign Secretary. I shouted John Healey, an older statesman, Pat McFadden. They all laughed at me. Diane Abbott.
Oh, God.
Just thought I'd drop it in there.
That really would be a surprise. Jeremy Corbyn.
Cooper, though, apparently she told Starmer to go. They're all playing games. But isn't it just the shuffling that we talked about?
Yeah, I think the Yvette Cooper angle is being underpriced here, because actually you made a good point, which is they're going to say, you've got rid of Rachel Reeves, who's our first female chancellor.
Oh, she's not going,
as she told us every single day that she was chancellor, she was the first woman, that not that anyone cared. I think they're going to be some kind of argument, because it's been a contest between two white men or whatever, that they're going to try and put some women in these senior offices of state. So I wouldn't be surprised if Yvette Cooper is actually Foreign Secretary.
She is still. Well, she'll stay. Yeah.
I think she could stay in position. And then for Home Secretary, I'm not quite sure who kind of comes to mind as an obvious shoe-in for that, because I don't think he wants someone who's going to be tough. I really don't. I think he.
It's really interesting because there's another paper report this morning that says he will create a number 10 in the north that will move parts of Downing Street to Manchester to divulge power, but also the two women that have been at the forefront of his campaign. Lou Haig, sacked for fraud. Fact, not making up. The pink hair's gone. We've now got a trendy bob. She's going to come back. What's the other one called? What's the deputy leader called? I get confused between Liz Kendall... Is it Lucy Powell?
Lucy Powell.
Yeah, I mean, she's being front and centre. So there's only one really good thing about all of it. Lammy's a goner, isn't he? Lammy is a goner!
You know how you...
Or do you think he'll survive? I mean, could he go back to being Foreign Secretary? Who made him Foreign Secretary?
I doubt that very highly. I mean, he might keep a ministerial position, but...
Dan Hodges just said Rachel Reeves will be shuffled to something like Foreign Secretary.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. That
Sorry, Poppy, I love you. It would make sense to send a woman abroad to represent this country who can't even speak.
I'm sorry, look at the Labour front benches, they're all rubbish. I mean, the qualification for sitting on the Labour front bench at the moment seems to be, have you got your hair cut and that god-awful bob that they all have? You could tell Louise Haig...
Are you not going to have a bob?
No, I'm not, because I'm not a Labour Party supporter. You could tell Louise Haig had ambitions for a ministerial role again, when she dyed her hair a normal colour and got it cut like Rachel Reeves. I was like, oh, well, she's coming back.
Rachel Reeves is like Richard III, for God's sake, if you look.
I mean, I'm looking right now at this picture of the Times when she was looking like she's about to start weeping again at BMQs yesterday. I mean...
And actually, can we just... Sorry, one thing I do totally agree with Kemi on is... She's a dupe. They're all the same.
Yeah, of course
she
they
was
are.
absolutely joined at the hip with Keir Starmer. And this is not me sticking up for Keir Starmer. She lives next door to him, as Kemi said, and when it was time for him to do his resignation speech, she was across Whitehall in what looked like a portable marshmallow suit, smiling awkwardly next to Andy... Well, not actually next to Andy Burnham, about 8 rows back for the Chancellor, which must have been humiliating. It'll be really, really interesting to see what happens. Let's just do a voice note. Jay, good morning.
Morning, Jez. Morning, Pops. I just want to point this out. If Mr Burnham is Prime Minister, because everyone's saying it's a done deal, I mean, you never know in politics. People like to stab each other in the back. Look at Burnham and Starmer. If I was Starmer, personally, I'd have called a general election and walked away with a big smile on my face with my paycheck. But there you go, that's me. I just want to point out he's got about 2.5 years to save that party, in the sense of Labour could do a Conservatives and absolutely... I mean, look at the Conservatives votes. Every local election, I mean, they've been absolutely battered. You know, that will happen to Labour. They are heading that way. This net zero, this budget that Ed Miliband is... It needs to be put into the military. There's no point having solar panels if you're being shot out the sky and blown up with a weak Air Force, Navy and no bloody soldiers. Come on, start listening to the powerful economies of the world, the US, China. You know, start using all energy resources that we have available.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Breakfast on the Home of Common Sense on a Thursday morning. It's the hottest day of the year. Well, yesterday was 36.1 degrees. In Surrey today it's going to be hotter. But don't worry, my friends, it'll be raining by Saturday. Poppy Coburn, a deputy content editor of the Daily Telegraph, with me this morning, sleep-deprived, but as brilliant as ever. So we talked about what you believe the Cabinet will make up. We talked about Burnham. You've brought a story to me today, which is utterly brilliant, Alarm Clock Britain. You could miss this story. It's on page 9, or is it 9? I can't even see.
Page 7.
Page 7 of the Times. And this is about Lara Bird, who is the new SNP MP for a area in Scotland. She won the seat a couple of weeks ago. Why is this a relevant story? Why is Lara getting the bird from you this morning, Coburn?
So, you know, in all the many political move-around stories that have happened in the last week, this has got to be my favourite. So Lara came to attention when she's been sworn in Parliament alongside Andy Burnham, obviously new MPs. And she's, first of all, her outfit is quite interesting. I think she's wearing a miniskirt and high heels, which is an interesting outfit for
I haven't seen
the
this.
House of Commons. It's quite something with her tattoos on show. But look, whatever. I guess it's casual Fridays nowadays. That's fine. And she's standing there and she's swearing in, as all MPs have to do. And people noticed that she was holding her hand up like this. She was crossing her fingers together as she was making the oath to the King, which obviously means that she's lying.
Right. So should we play that? This is Lara Bird, sworn as an MP, according to Poppy Coburn, in a miniskirt. Listen, Christian wears them all the time. Have a watch.
Lara Bird, member for Arbroath and Broughton Ferry. Broughton Ferry, in fact.
I take this oath only so that I can serve the people of Arbroath and Broughton Ferry. My first allegiance is, and always will be, the sovereign people of Scotland. I do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles, his heirs and successors, according to the law, so help me God.
Sorry, maybe that doesn't work already. It's too long. She's literally holding her fingers like kids do when they're lying.
It's not just that as well. Look at her stroppy expression on her face. Look how she's bobbing her head along, you know, as if she can't be bothered to be here. That I pledge allegiance to the sovereign people of Scotland. I'm sorry, how old is this woman?
So are you allowed to say to the sovereign people of Scotland?
What? Not really, because you're in Westminster.
I was quite surprised nobody else has done that. Andy Burnham didn't start by saying, I swear allegiance to the sovereign people of Manchester.
Well, no.
So already she's got it, but then you've picked up something else that this story is, which is brilliant,
something
peeps.
Even better. So you're never going to believe it. This hardcore Scottish nationalist went all Braveheart. Turns out she's actually not got a Scottish accent. So what you just heard, that little hint of train spotting she's trying to get in her voice, is completely fake. She has got the Queen's English, received pronunciation, public school girl. She's not Scottish at all. She's got a perfect English accent.
This is Lara Bird with a proper English accent. This is about British Palestine Project. Of course it is. Have a listen. This is how she sounds.
Recognition of their state, a state that already exists, a state that has existed for longer than the state of Israel has, for many, many, many generations, for the UK government to completely undermine the humanity of those people, of the Palestinian people.
This oath only so that I can serve the people of Arbroath and Broughton Ferry. My first allegiance is, and always will be, the sovereign people of Scotland. I do swear
So basically, we've now got an MP representing Scotland doing a kid's sign because she doesn't swear allegiance to the King, who's actually not bloody Scottish.
It's amazing.
And people, Alarm Clock Brits, are supposed to take our politicians seriously.
It is so...
That's a brilliant story.
So, isn't this perfect encapsulation of the let's move forward to... You know what? When Sinn Féin used to win elections in the 20th century, they refused to go to Westminster, right? Because they thought it was illegitimate. The SNP are more than happy to come to Westminster, take the MP's salary, all that and the other. But don't worry, they've got a new solution. What they're going to do is they're going to pretend pretend they're Scottish nationalists. They're going to cross their fingers like they're 5 years old and they're in a school playground, and they're going to bob their head passive-aggressively.
You didn't like... She did... I don't even know what that means, but she looked right stroppy.
Oh, she looked like a complete child. And the fact she was dressed like that
this
as well.
passive-aggressive young language, I'd have gone, that's one stroppy mare. I'm telling... No, I'm being serious. That's a woman that's not happy. Being serious, right?
I'm sure she's not happy at all. But I think the people of Scotland,
then, you miserable...
exactly, the people of Scotland clearly must deserve better than this lacrosse-playing public school girl who's play acting as a Scot. I mean, is that not offensive?
I'm going to play that all morning. That's brilliant. So Lara Bird, the angry Scotswoman in a miniskirt and tattoos who swears allegiance to the Scottish people before the King, turns out to be a middle-class schoolgirl from Middle England who played lacrosse. 0344 419 1000. Text to 87222. JK and Poppy. Donald Trump, what a class act. I love him. Please keep playing it. This is the clip of Donald Trump. He was asked about our new, would-be Prime Minister Andy, but I think we should play it again. Margaret loved it. So many of you waking up will. Andy Burnham, a fresh start for Labour, the future of the United Kingdom. Donald just eviscerated him completely. Morning, DT.
Know about who?
The new incoming Prime Minister, Andy Burnham.
I don't know anything. I see that he was, I guess, the mayor of a town. I hear he's extremely liberal. Extremely. So that means he probably won't open up the North Sea. You know, I gave Keir Starmer some pretty good advice. I said, open up the North Sea. Go to Aberdeen, which was the hottest city in the whole continent. It was the oil city. It was the oil of Europe, and they closed everything. It was terrible. I saw it before my eyes, and I couldn't believe it. The North Sea is loaded. I have had every oil company come to see me. Sir, could you give us access to the UK? We would do anything to drill in the North Sea. And they haven't even found what's there. The amazing thing is they buy their oil from Norway, which gets the oil from the North Sea. Think of it. And they pay a big premium. Norway's got now $2 trillion in the bank, and UK is dying.
I mean, I'm sorry, the reason I'm laughing is not only that. Just open the mail. Why haven't we done this? Sorry, this is brilliant. This says on page 6, ladies and gentlemen, climate conference called off because it was too bloody hot yesterday. Yes, I mean, extraordinary. Donald Trump. And then he goes further. They're going to... But Andy Burnham's the future of Great Britain. I mean, Andy Burnham should come. Donald doesn't want to meet Andy Burnham. Here we go.
A new Prime Minister will be installed in a matter of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. Would you want to be the first person on his list to visit London?
No, but I think we're probably of a different persuasion. He's very liberal. But, you know, I got along well with Starmer. I disagreed with Starmer. I said, you have 2 problems, immigration and energy. And crime, too, by the way. Crime. You have a terrible mayor of London, by the way. I don't want to cause any problems, but your mayor of London is grossly incompetent, a bad person, and a horrible representative for your country. You know that. That's why you're smiling and laughing.
So it's not 2 things he doesn't like about Starmer, it's 3. Sadiq Khan's a complete nightmare, and I don't want to visit from Burnham. I think he should run this country, Donald Trump, don't you?
Honestly, he is still the funniest thing. The way he ends that little clip at the beginning. Britain is dying. It's dying.
Well, no, I like to see... There's 2 things I told Keir Starmer. Immigration, borders, actually crime as well, so that was 3. Do you want to visit from Burnham? No, I think he's too liberal. Morning, Pete!
I think it's very, very suspicious and fishy how Andy Burnham is just being pushed straight to the top job without any of the others that are in the Houses of Parliament being considered for the top job. Shouldn't be done like this, should it? Andy Burnham should not be getting the job like that straight away.
Sorry, what I love about my alarm clock Brits, all 11 of them, they've already called him Andy Vermin. I mean, the man hasn't even... The nominate... Can I just keep going back to this? The nominations to be the next leader of the Labour Party haven't opened yet.
No, they have not.
And he's already, we found out yesterday, being given government briefings by the Cabinet Secretary, civil service briefings. Is that right?
No, of course it's not right.
Well, don't shout at me because you're sleep-deprived.
Andy Burnham's mandate so far is 25,000 people in Makerfield.
Yeah. Yeah.
OK, I know we don't have a presidential system in this country, but we've got to stop this carousel of prime ministers who haven't won via a general election. I'm sorry, there should be a general election.
I've said it. I said it with the Tories, so this is not sour grapes at all. I don't believe that you should be able to change.
No, I don't.
And I've said it to Jenrick, and I'll say it to Braverman, and I'll say it to anybody. I don't believe you should be able to change seats, parties in mid-term. I think you should call a by-election. Same with prime ministers. They talk to me about we don't have a presidential style. We don't. But the leader of a party, the figurehead of a party, the person that fronts that manifesto is given the mandate, surely.
I agree. Otherwise, you end up in a situation where a very, very small number of people are determining really vital questions about the future of the country.
0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Morning, you two lovely people, says Jane Knock. Change the subject. Just had a ways to keep cool text from South Staffordshire Council. Put a cold pebble on your pulse points.
What?
She went, what? I've been walking around with a wet cloth all week on my head, duh. Sorry, put a cold pebble on your pulse points? Yeah, no, I'm just walking along, doing a breakfast show. Poppy's just on her way to the Telegraph. Just grab a cold pebble. Where are you finding a cold pebble from, South Staffordshire Council?
The whole country's on fire.
Do you know what
Where
I
are
mean?
you going to find a cold pebble?
It's like going to one of those... You know when you go and have your nails... I have my feet done because I'm a bit like that. They get hot pebbles out, don't they, for my legs? When you go to one of them... Have you never had hot...
No.
Oh, I've had it done a lot. Do you not have a manicure? What's a fit pedicure? I think men should have pedicures. Why are you laughing? I do have... What's wrong with that? I like a pedicure. Tommy's agreeing with me. Men should look after their legs.
I bet you love your pedicure.
I do.
What colour nail varnish do you get on your
No,
toes?
I don't have nail varnish. No, I just have my...
I always like a pink myself.
Do
so,
you? Yeah. I can't imagine you wear nail varnish, do you?
No, not on my nails.
No.
No.
She hasn't got any. Bitten them all. 0344 499 1000. Did Lara Bird have to fail to identify a motorhome from 50 feet to qualify for SNP membership? She should be brought back to the House of Commons. Oh, God. With rubber gloves on and made to retake her oath. Jesus, Nathan from Perth. That's not Lara Big Bird's real name. Her real name is Pyra Bird Leaky. If she was your ex, she would be Pyrex. Way! She's actually, her real name is Pyla Lara Bird Leaky.
Oh, you're joking.
Sorry, this is ridiculous. Mate, I love this show. Her real name is not Lara Bird. It is Pyla, P-Y-L-A.
Interesting. Must be a traditional Scottish name.
Lara Bird -Leaky. Berleaky. Leaky is in L-E-A-K-E-Y.
Who do these people think they're
Pyla
fooling?
Lara Bird Leaky, a middle-class to cross-paying girl from Middle England, has reinvented herself as an Amazonian giant in tattoos with a Scottish accent.
Hang on, you know, she's going to have a friend, a Peter Murrell, because I bet, being as middle-class as she is, she's going to love Le Creuset homeware, and he's got plenty to spare.
He has. I'd love that. I think that's very good. Morning, Jez, and the beautiful Poppy. Andy Burnham is the political equivalent of a medical Is it placebo? Brilliant. He tries to convince the sick that it can cure what they are suffering from, but would in truth do absolutely nothing to make them better or help them one iota, says Dave in South Gloucester. Can I just reiterate?
Meow.
Nominations haven't even opened, let alone closed. He hasn't even been accepted, and he's already been called... What did somebody just call him? Andy Verman.
Andy Verman is great. I'm using that.
David's got it right. He's in Riyadh, which I have to report this morning is actually cooler than the United Kingdom. Is Andy Verman security clear to get Cabinet Office briefing? Just asking. Possibly, Mr Cunningham, thank you. Ed Miliband could be Minister of Food with special responsibility for bacon sandwiches, says Graham in Bushy, where I was conceived. Good morning, Jeremy. What's wrong with that? Was conceived...
Sorry, that little aside,
I was conceived in Bushy.
I'm not going to ask.
In the park. Listen to Keir Starmer. Listen to Keir Starmer made me laugh. He needs to go and live in Disneyland because his head is full of magic, the prat. As a veteran, I will be fuming, this is an important point, when he, as an ex-Prime Minister, will be at the Poppy ceremony in November. Yeah, I get that. Donna Alexander, morning, Jez. Angry Rob, we think he should be Prime Minister, possibly. Please, another one, Jez and Pops, could you... This is Diane from Bedfordshire. Could you please get Angry Rob live on your show? He cheers me up. We'll get Angry Rob on the show next week. Steve in Cambridge... Oh, we've done that. It's about you. Good morning. What about Lammy for Chancellor and Rayner from Ambassador to the USA, says Louis. You can't have Lammy anywhere near it, can you?
Oh, please don't make it any worse than it already is. Don't give them ideas.
You can't imagine that. I'm sorry, this is the best story of the morning. Page 7 of the Times. Lara Bird, the new MP. Can we find out where she is an MP? Well, she's won for the SNP. We've discovered that actually, when she was doing the oath, she was doing a little kids thing with a finger, so she didn't swear allegiance to the king. And then she did a Scottish accent. She let you don't talk to it turns out that she's an English middle-class girl who was part of the Palestinian project and doesn't talk Scottish at all. Now we've discovered she's not called Lara Bird, she's called Pilar Lara Bird Leakey. Imagine we call Bird Leakey.
Bird Leakey. Well, you can see why she changed her name and her accent, of course.
Well, what
about this woman's real?
Unbelievable. 0344 499 1000. Can we talk about the hottest day? I mean, it is going to be today hotter than yesterday, which was the hottest day in history, 36.1%. Homeowners are being forced to tear out air conditioning from their private properties because council officers fear they produce too much carbon dioxide, stating that AC should be only used as a last resort.
I want AC.
So do I.
I want AC. This is one of many reasons I do not like Ed Miliband. I don't like it when people whinge when the weather's nice, because it's like we don't get it very often.
No.
I know it's a British pastime, but enjoy it while you have it.
It's been raining on Saturday, peeps.
Exactly. I thought that until it was 3 a.m. this morning, and I couldn't get to sleep because it was too hot.
How hot was it in your bedroom? If you're just tuning in, that doesn't sound right, but I think you know what I meant if you've been listening.
I think it was the same temperature as it was outside, so about 28 degrees, which is too hot to sleep in. It is just too hot to sleep in. Even if you have all the blinds closed and a wet towel or wet pebble or whatever the hell they're telling people to do.
A cool pebble on your pressure points. Because you can find that. Like, in fact, so just 3 a.m. in the morning, I'm in a flat in Marylebone, it's very posh. Sorry to the boyfriend. Just going out. Where you going, love? I'm going to go and get some cold pebbles.
Going to get some wet pebbles
cold pebbles down from the beach. Where's the beach? Oh, Baker Street. Brilliant. Ridiculous. Unbelievable.
But for, you know what? If you're young, it's fine. You can enjoy it. You can get through it. Whatever. But for the older people, where they really struggle with the heat, when someone like Ed Miliband says, oh, we don't need air conditioning, you need passive cooling or whatever rubbish they're coming out with, that's not right, because people will get really ill if there's not some kind of air conditioning.
I completely agree. This will make you feel better, Alarm Clock Brits, because I know you'll be out there, you'll be absolutely giving it large. BBC staff are being told to work from home because it's too hot to go in.
Well, the trains yesterday, I will say, were almost empty.
Well, I tried to get a train, it didn't work, so that was a disaster. So I just got a car with aircon in. Fuming parents, now, I want your take on this quickly, are criticising lazy teachers for shutting schools for days due to the heatwave. I feel for the first time in my career here I'm going to disagree with a lot of people.
What are you going to say?
My grandson is 6 and he has ADHD, fact, diagnosed, sweet boy, love him so much. He, in a concrete jungle with 36 kids, no aircon, would lose his mind. And his mother, with my total support, is not going to school yesterday or today. And I will argue the toss with anybody. It doesn't work. Fact. Sorry.
I've got to say,
the way it is, and I'm being straight. I've always been straight.
A lot of these schools, because you know, my mum works at a school, there's no air conditioning. No. They are built with plywood and pebbles and whatever they could find.
Pebble.
They are freezing in the winter, and in the summer they trap the heat in. And to be fair, I understand with parents go, well, it's hot at home, I've got to go to work, how am I supposed to deal with it? But also for teachers, you can't really manage to keep kids in classrooms.
I went to pick up Oliver yesterday, he's lucky, he's at a school on the south coast, it was sort of 28 degrees, they can go out and... But yet, not necessarily, sorry, and people will go, that's utterly disgraceful, Jez. Why are you saying that? I'm saying it because it's a once in a... This doesn't happen. It doesn't happen, does it? That's how I see it. But you've also got to feel for parents. How are you going to make the logistics work about, you know, being off school, and then you get into the whole argument about teachers, and, you know, but I've just used my boy as an example, and for him, it would be awful.
I mean, I would really struggle to work in heat like that.
Is it air conditioned at the Daily Telegraph?
It is air conditioned, thank goodness.
So you're going to sleep there tonight?
Well, I'm quite tempted to go under my desk.
Poppy on tomorrow morning because she's sleeping at the Telegraph. Chris in South West, I don't understand this. Morning, Jezra and Pops, pedicures and pink shirts. What else can I say? We didn't say pink shirts. We talked about manicures for me and pink nails for you, didn't we?
Yeah, but
if you tune in to hear me talking about
you have worn pink shirts before, haven't you?
Oh, I see what he's saying. Pedicures and pink shirts. What can I say? Oh, he's implying.
I think he's implying something.
What's he implying? Any idea?
You might be a big fan of Keir Starmer. Perhaps you have to go visit his house.
Or Brotherhood of Man. Great show, Poppy. Love your sidekick, Jez. Morning, Poppy in the old gear. All this stink around Andy Burnham stinks like a sewage farm. Being briefed before there's even been a vote for leadership, this smells distinctly like a communist takeover of the Labour Party. He was known in Manchester as Comrade Burnham. I think you might be looking into it too much. Yesterday I was posh English barristers stamping on the necks of downtrodden Scots. Today I'm a heroic Scottish Braveheart woman MP whose voice could scrape the frost off your window. That's politics, Bill in Cheshire. I love that. Can I repeat that? This is about Lara Bird. Yesterday I was a posh English barrister stamping on the necks of downtrodden Scots. Today I'm a heroic Scottish Braveheart woman whose voice could scrape the frost off your front window. I don't know where that came from. Lara Bird, ladies and gentlemen, we've been playing it all morning. It's the new SNP candidate. I don't know wherefore. She turned up in the Commons. Don't play it. I'm going to do it in a bit. She's very stroppy. Made a faux thing with her wrist when she was saying I was swearing in, and then does this marvellous Scottish accent. And then we found a clip of the fact that actually she's English. And then we've discovered she's not called Lara Bird, she's called Pilar Lara Bird Leaky. Poppy Coburn, I honestly, genuinely, hand on heart, hope that you sleep tonight.
I really hope so too.
But it is going to be worse tonight.
Oh, don't tell me
Have you got
that.
a fan?
I have got a fan, but it's just blowing hot air in my face. You know, when it gets to a certain temperature...
Sleep on top of the sheets.
It's useless.
Wet towels.
I've done that. I'm going to do a wet towel next. I'm not sure it's going to do much good.
And if everything else fails, send him out to get some cold pebbles from somewhere.
Pebbles from the beach.
We love you. Poppy Coburn, Deputy Commandant of the Daily Telegraph, thank you so much indeed. We'll see you next week. It's almost 7 o'clock. We're live across the UK. James Price kicks off the next hour on the home of common sense, where the news at 7 is next.
I think if Andy Burnham wants to introduce major changes to our constitution, he's talked about overhauling the House of Lords. He's also talked about overhauling our electoral system, bringing in some form of PR, moving along devolution, giving more power to municipal mayors like he still is. I think if he wants to do any of those things, he needs a mandate from the public to do them. To try and do them without calling an election, I think, would be a constitutional outrage.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
The question my party is asking now is whether I am best placed to lead us into the next general election. I have heard the answer of my parliamentary party to that question, and I accept that answer with good grace. Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party.
Well, you know what? In the end, he did do the right thing, and there were some achievements, and he's an honourable man, and he cared about public service. Guys, that's not what happened just now. In the last half an hour, Keir Starmer resigned, and he resigned because he was pushed. Most of his issues, most of the things which have damned him from, let's face it, within days, within weeks of him becoming Prime Minister back in July 2024, or of his own making. They were things he chose to do, cutting the winter fuel allowance, damning everybody who wanted to have a public inquiry on the grooming gangs as jumping onto the far-right bandwagon, the two-tier policing after the Southport riots. This man brought it on himself. He was not a good Prime Minister.
There was two things on that manifesto. One was a picture of Keir Starmer and the word change. Well, promise made and promise delivered in that sense. Let's be honest. But look, I mean, I don't really want to make light of it, but I am cheesed off, Julia, because what we promised in opposition was competence, and it's been anything but. I'm embarrassed. I'm really, truly, honestly, I am embarrassed, because I did think we would be competent. We've not been.
I've no idea whether there'll be a contest or a coronation. But what I do know is the British public have simply had enough of political parties chopping and changing their leaders at will. We vote for somebody in a general election to be our Prime Minister. We expect them to serve their term. And barring ill health or exceptional circumstances, what is going on here, frankly, is reminiscent of a banana republic that has totally devalued the very process of general elections and democracy. We at Reform demand
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, or welcome along. Just gone 7 o'clock on an extremely hot Thursday, the 25th of June. Check out the controls. Well, not really, big Emmys. Here until 10 o'clock, and as ever, your views on the day's news most welcome on 03444 99 1000. We'll get you on live. You can leave a voice note for Christian to cut up. We love to hear those voice notes. You can text the show 87222. It's all going on today. This hour, we will talk more about Andy Burnham, the self-styled King of the North, who seems to be on his way to 10 Downing Street without so much as having to even be nominated or have an argument or whatever. It all seems to have fallen in place. We'll talk more about what his cabinet could look like. Apparently, by the way, Keir Starmer's announced he's going to stay on as an MP. Why? We'll talk about Badenoch, who yesterday eviscerated the entire cabinet and accused Bridget Phillips and the education sector of being a spiteful class warrior. They had a hard time at the back of the Speaker's chair after that. But ladies and gentlemen, let's start with the man himself. Donald Trump last night, he branded Andy Burnham as extremely liberal and said, I think he was the sort of mayor of a little town somewhere in England. This is classic Donald Trump. Good morning, DT.
Know about who?
The new incoming Prime Minister, Andy Burnham.
I don't know anything. I see that he was, I guess, the mayor of a town. I hear he's extremely liberal. Extremely. So that means he probably won't open up the North Sea. You know, I gave Keir Starmer some pretty good advice. I said, open up the North Sea. Go to Aberdeen, which was the hottest city in the whole continent. It was the oil city. It was the oil of Europe, and they closed everything. It was terrible. I saw it before my eyes, and I couldn't believe it. The North Sea is loaded. I have had every oil company come to see me. Sir, could you give us access to the UK? We would do anything to drill in the North Sea. And they haven't even found what's there. The amazing thing is they buy their oil from Norway, which gets the oil from the North Sea. Think of it. And they pay a big premium. Norway's got now $2 trillion in the bank, and UK is dying.
And much of people will go, oh, Donald Trump, but he's absolutely, I mean, he's not right about a town. Manchester's quite big, and Burnham might be a success, and there will be a bounce. I'll say that. But you know the North Sea oil thing? You know that we're screwed? You know that we're going to have taxes rise so Burnham can implement yet more socialist doctrine in the United Kingdom? You know the fact we've got no defence? We've got no control of our borders. Our public services are creaking. Our NHS is in trouble. Pensioners don't get heating allowances. Our farmers are made to give up their land. Our armed forces are screwed over. That's because, and Poppy Coburn made this point brilliantly an hour ago, every country that has cheap energy builds successful businesses. And this net zero madness of Ed Miliband means that we have the most expensive energy in the world. And there it is, in the North Sea, lying there, ready for us to deal with. And no, we're not going to do it because it's environmentally sad. My favourite story of the day, I don't care if this upsets the Friends of the Earth, those people, is on page 6 of the Daily Mail. Yesterday, there was a massive climate conference, and it had to be called off because it was the hottest day ever in the history of the world. The other big story of the day is Badenoch. She eviscerated Starmer yesterday in his last ever Prime Minister's Questions time. But it wasn't just that, it was the way that she took aim at the Cabinet, and in particular, Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary. This was on the back of a poll that said that nobody thinks that Bridget Phillipson's done anything positive for education. And then you should see the anger on Phillipson's face. Apparently she confronted Badenoch later on, didn't like it at all. They don't like it atoms, socialists, do they? Take it away, Kemi.
Hands up if you think the Education Secretary is doing a good job. Even she doesn't think she's doing a good job, Mr. Speaker. Even she doesn't think she's doing a good job. Just, someone did. Just for those who raised their hands, the two people who raised their hands, yesterday a poll found that 0% of teachers think the Education Secretary is doing a good job. 0%. She taxed private schools to pay for more teachers, but the number of teachers has gone down. It turns out appointing a spiteful class warrior as Education Secretary was a disaster.
Now, it comes to something if you call somebody on the left a spiteful class warrior. 0344 499 1000. Breakfast is on. Morning, Wayne.
Hang on a minute, Jezza. Let's just row back. Let's take a few steps backwards here. So, you are the voice of the alarm clock Britain. You are the voice of the working man and woman. However, we put up with your glamping. We understand you're a little bit posh to poo in a bucket in a field. We accept that. We understand we all have faults in this world. But to physically go and get a pedicure and then have hot rocks on your leg, not even just as a, to join your wife or a gift from a Father's Day that your kids got you, you feel obliged to do. You actually do it by choice. You're a bit like Burnham and Starmer, my friend. I think you're a bit of a fraud. Why do you keep dropping yourself in it, Jezza? Why do you do it to yourself?
It's true. Because I'm honest, right? I'm honest. Now, I don't even know why I'm going to say this. I have really crap feet and the skin cracks around the heels. So twice a year I go and have a pedicure. Oh, alarm clock Britain, I've been screwed, haven't I? Absolutely. You're out there grafting in this heat and some idiot on the radio is going, honestly, I understand you, but I'm just going off for a pedicure because my feet are cracked. 0344 499 1000 will say good morning. Former government special advisor. It's hotter in this studio because I've been found out. I'm sweating slightly. James Price, good morning.
I'm not sure if Jeremy Kyle's pedicure sounds more like a kind of exotic cocktail or some kind of deviant thing that a politician gets caught doing in Soho, but it's good to be with you nonetheless.
Fantastic. You're not at home. You look like you're in a hotel room, and I suspect you're there because there's air conditioning, is there?
Well, that's just a perk of the job. I actually, being married to an American, we have a big air conditioning unit at home that we insisted on getting, and I have to lug it around from room to room, following Mrs. P like I'm a kind of Egyptian slave with a big fan.
Have you not been found out by the council yet? Because homeowners are being forced to tear out air conditioning units from private properties because council officers fear they produce too much carbon dioxide. The government say that AC should only be used as a last resort, just before you're about to pass out, I imagine.
It produces almost as much hot air as your average council official, I'm afraid. Look, Lee Kuan Yew, the visionary, wonderful, amazing leader of Singapore who led that country from basically a kind of rock with nothing going on to an amazing, amazing country. His memoir was called From Third World to First. He said the number one thing that really helped them out was not the inheritance of the common law from Britain, was not adopting the English language, was not the large natural port or any of this kind of stuff. It was air conditioning. Air conditioning that made Florida and Texas and all these places economically powerhouses as well. And it's so miserableist to see that we're so defeatist that we can't even start advocating for decent air conditioning here in this country. Or instead you've got Miliband, who I'm sure we'll talk about, saying, well, no, because you need to use less energy. That is incorrect. You just need to use lots and lots of energy and make sure it comes from sustainable or nicely clean places, and then you can have as much as you want. Imagine if we all had enough energy that we could all have air conditioning that was so cheap you barely even registered the cost of electricity. That's not sci-fi, it's possible.
Anything is possible, but not currently in this country where nothing's possible. Let us start, please, my friend, with Donald Trump eviscerating Andy Burnham. He hasn't, I mean, I said it to you the other day. Nominations haven't even opened and Andy Burnham's the next Prime Minister. He was described by Donald as extremely liberal, a mayor of some town. But he does make a really salient point about the fact that this country is broken, skinned and on its backside, and yet we have, in his words, liquid gold under the North Sea. We have a government that refuses to drill. He made the point in that clip you saw that Norway, they're drilling in the North Sea, and we're buying it off them at twice what we would pay. It makes no sense. Do you see Andy Burnham, who, you know, is going to have a honeymoon period? That's a fact. Do you see him making, Jay, any of the decisions that need making, like we should drill in the North Sea and we should start to cut the ridiculously huge benefits bill?
It's tough to know with Andy Burnham. I'm told, you know, there's a good joke that you'll hear doing the rounds that a Blairite, a Brownite, and a Corbynite get into a taxi, and the taxi driver says, "Hi, Andy, where do you want to go?"
Love it.
Presumably to which Burnham replies, "Left." And I was told by a Labour person yesterday that Burnham hates that joke. So please, everybody, make sure you don't go around telling it to everybody you know.
So a Blairite, a Brownite, and a Corbynite gets into a taxi, and the taxi driver says, "Where do you want to go, Andy Burnham? I'll be using it every link. Don't you worry about that." That's fantastic.
And that gets to the heart of what does this guy believe? He believes in himself, which is something. But other than that, you know, when he was the health secretary for Gordon Brown, he privatised an NHS hospital. I mean, if he carries on in that vein as Prime Minister, then maybe I'd have to join the Labour Party. But I doubt he wants to go on about that very much, because he was also the health secretary who was there when mid-staffs happened and that shocking set of scandals. And then he lost to Ed Miliband, and then he lost to Jeremy Corbyn, and then he took his toys away and flounced off to Manchester, pretending he was from Manchester, which he's not, and spent this whole time trying to tell everyone how normal he is. I don't really care how normal you are. I want to know the answers to exactly your questions, Jez. What's he going to do about energy policy? What's he going to do about all these other problems facing Britain? And he can inherit the same mad, loony Labour Party that Keir Starmer has been singularly incapable of leading. And he's not seemingly got any grasp of our constitutional problems, the fact that, you know, the ECHR is a higher power of law in our country than in Britain, than Parliament is, frankly, which is a disgrace and needs to be changed. He doesn't seem to probably understand the civil service is a big blocker on this, and we've now tried multiple prime ministers, each very different, and we've tested the hypothesis to destruction that all it is a different person in number 10. Does he know about any of these kind of slightly dry but incredibly important structural issues? Let alone, do we think he knows how a business runs? Do you think he knows why a big company has to pay dividends?
I think you know, I was watching it, and I think just that response to when he was called eyelashes and T-shirts by Kemi, and he did something on Twitter which was amusing. I think he's got a character and a personality, and I think that there will be a bounce, and I think that it'll be the usual thing, a bit like Johnson after May. And in fact, Sarah Vine in the Mail yesterday, Jay, said she believes that he is the equivalent. He's the Labour equivalent of Boris Johnson. But when the detail starts to be examined, my point and your point, I think, is relevant, which is he's either going to be hamstrung by the different facets of his party that need placating and can't and won't be able to make the decisions for the best of this country. And that will, again, I'm afraid, put him somewhere down the line in the same boat. Let me ask you about Kemi, your party. You saw her, eviscerate Starmer, but also attack members of the cabinet for knifing him and making appalling decisions. She attacked the chancellor. She attacked the energy secretary. She also attacked Bridget Sourface Phillipson, if you saw it. I mean, she didn't look very happy at all, Bridget. He called her, and I thought this was genius, she called her a spiteful class warrior for VAT on private schools. It apparently enraged Phillipson so much that she and Liz Kendall approached Badenoch behind the Speaker's chair. Fisticuffs, I don't think so, but three of them at it, JP.
Look, I've never necessarily been Kemi Badenoch's most starry-eyed supporter, but I've never liked her more than I did yesterday. I thought she was absolutely bang on. And some of the pearl clutching from the Labour Party on this, give me a bloody break, right? David Lammy was the person who said that Brexiteers are worse than Nazis, and he said this was very mean and too far. Chris Bryant, if anyone knows him, one of the trade ministers, I think, he was saying, oh, it's so unbecoming and spiteful. He's someone who told the Speaker himself to F-word off not that long ago. You've got John McDonnell, who was the former Shadow Chancellor under Jeremy Corbyn. He shouted to a massive crowd of unionists about the Tory female MP Esther McVeigh, lynch the, and then the word for female dog. These people don't care about any of this
Angela
stuff.
Rayner called the Tory frontbench scum.
I've managed to block the Ginger Wonder out of my memory banks entirely, but you're exactly right about this. And this is what holding people to account looks like. And I'm going to use the E word here. What Bridget Phillipson is doing in the education brief is evil. She is sacrificing the future well-being and prosperity of the children of this country on the altar of her own personal ambition, because she lost that race for deputy leader of the Labour Party, but she definitely ran it trying to get the trade union support, and on the vaulting ambition of her own desire one day to try and succeed Starmer. And as a result, children will be worse off, their outcomes will be worse, and she doesn't care. And all of this, oh, you can't criticise her because she was born in a council house. God, give me a break. The girl got into Oxford, for God's sake, and she was an MP by the age of about 24. She's been an MP since 2010. She has had one of the most gilded existences anybody in the history of mankind has ever had. And the idea of saying, well, I had quite a tough start in life. Well, so do many people, right? Can't you transcend your suffering and your lot in life? That's supposed to be the point of Britain today, that you can have a level of social mobility. But she's done it for herself and is now pulling that ladder up from all the millions of children across this country. And good on Kemi Badenoch. And you know what Kemi said in response to Liz Kendall and Bridget Phillipson doing the Mean Girls routine and saying you can't do that? Apparently Kemi shouted at her, I will never stop fighting you because what you're doing is evil and hurting children. Good on her for that.
I completely agree. Before you go, I'm sorry, I've got to do this because it's utterly brilliant and you are always spot on. What do you know about Lara Bird?
I think you mean Miss Lara Bird Leakey.
If you are tuning in, peeps, this is the story of the day. Kev talked about it last night. It's brilliant. The new SNP member of some Scottish constituency, and we'll find it out, arrived on the same day, Monday, as Andy Burnham to be sworn in. As she was sworn, I'm just going to... don't play it yet. She did a sort of little childish thing with her fingers when she was swearing allegiance to the king, which is what kids do when they're lying, right? That's the first thing, and that caused great consternation. She looked really stroppy. She said, I swear allegiance to the Scottish people. Sound like Braveheart, right? And lo and behold, online overnight, we've discovered that actually she's got a middle-class English accent. She comes from Middle England. She was part of the Save the Palestine project. We'll play the two in a minute. And her name's not Lara Bird. Her real name is Lara Bird Leakey. She's a double-barrel middle-class woman who doesn't even have a Scottish accent. So wherever you are this morning, we're starting with... This is her with a Scottish accent being sworn in. We're starting with the posh English, and then she's transformed into Braveheart. Have a watch, have a listen.
Make recognition of their state, a state that already exists, a state that has existed for longer than the state of Israel has, for many, many, many generations, for the UK government to completely undermine the humanity of those people, of the Palestinian people.
This oath only so that I can serve the people of Arbroath and Broughty Ferry. My first allegiance is and always will be the sovereign people of Scotland. I do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles.
Sorry, I don't know about you, apart from... Jay, help me out. It's ludicrous, man. She's not even Scottish.
It's so good, isn't it? You couldn't make this up. No. So this amazing class warrior, let's just get all this down a second. We've just been talking about education. She was privately educated, of course, and she's had to give up doing her PhD in some nonsense at the London School of Economics, and she's had to give that up. She can't even cross her fingers right. For those watching the video, she does a sort of odd claw thing. And the SNP's own defence of her code switching, let's put it like that, is, well, she's half English and half Scottish, which, by the way, goes massively to undermine the awful nonsense of these ghastly separatists who want to tear our country in half. Never going to happen. They've got this weird kind of victim complex that the Scots have been under the English yoke for all this time. Basically, the truth is completely the opposite. When Elizabeth I died, we cast around, we couldn't find a Protestant king anywhere on the continent, and we went to James VI of Scotland. He became James I of England. Happy days. And the Scots were at the forefront of the empire, the forefront of defending our ancient liberties. We are one part of a beautiful, permanent and indivisible united kingdom. And it's so wonderful and united, our union, that you can even have posh English private school girls pretending to be Scots and getting into Parliament. There's a social mobility success story for you.
I love you, man. We love having you on. Couldn't put it better. Thank you so much indeed. Former government special advisor, mate of mine, James Price, 7:21. We're live across the UK. Yesterday was the hottest June day ever, as the record was broken with 36.1 degrees, and today it's going to be warmer. You can take all these meteorologists, and frankly, they haven't got a pitch on my next thing. My mate, honestly, how many years ago did we meet? Claire Nazir, the best meteorologist in the world. Good morning.
Hello there. Good morning, Jeremy. How are you?
Well, I'm all right. I'm sweaty as hell, love. I'm not even joking. Have you got air conditioning at home, Nazir?
No, but I have got a bit of a ledge out here, so it's much cooler. This house is only a good temperature at about 28 degrees and higher outside. So for most of the day, throughout the year, I've got thick socks on, big coat. I mean, it is... No, yeah, it's
brilliant,
cool.
Great. Well, I had a call from somebody yesterday morning. He said for 360 days of a year he freezes and he hates his job, but he's working in the freezer department of a major meat packing company. He's having the best few days of his life. Claire, babe, we've heard so much from so many people. There's even political arguments now about 76 and blah, blah, blah. Is it ending? Is it continuing? I mean, it has been pretty I mean, I walked out of the studio yesterday morning. It was like being in the Middle East, genuinely.
Yes, I mean, the temperatures have been oppressive day and night. And night in particular, we've seen temperatures not dip below 20, and that's at the end of the night.
Yeah.
So your body hasn't got time to recover after a very hot day if you're out and about. I was in London for 3 days this week. I'm back in the northwest of England. And even up here, you know, you feel like the tarmac's going to melt. This is the last day of that extreme red heat warning, but we do have amber warnings for heat across England and into the weekend. The heat will eventually wane, but it will be a slow process. And we're only at the beginning of the summer, Jeremy. It's only June. Now, the last time we had this intensity of heat was in 2022, where we saw 40 degrees. The humidity this time is higher.
Yeah.
So it makes your body, it's harder for your body to cool down. You sweat and there's no evaporation going on because there's too much water vapor in the atmosphere. And so it's been really hard for people, particularly working outside, people having to step out, going from A to B. We're not used to it.
No.
We like a temperature below about 25 degrees. That's when we can actually function well.
Yeah.
This is beyond that and more.
Is this extremity that we've had, is this a one-off this summer? What are you thinking, looking forward? Because it's going to rain I mean, honestly, listen to me yesterday. I so badly planning, but trying to do a million things. Thought I'm going to buy an air conditioning unit on Amazon. Well, I asked Sean to do it because I wouldn't know how to do it anyway. And he said that they couldn't deliver one until July the 17th, by which time, of course, it'll be -1. Are we going to have a very hot summer? Is this a blip? What's the news, Claire?
Well, this isn't a blip in terms of long term. We're getting more of these episodes and it's going to continue. It's going to get more intense and more widespread and longer. This summer, the forecast a few weeks ago for the trend for the summer was it was going to be warmer than average, and certainly we've had that already. If you cast your mind back to that 2022 summer, it did start like this, and we had 5 different sort of extreme heat episodes. So it's likely we will see a heat like this again. Luckily, where we sit in Europe, we're on the periphery of it, which means we do get those lovely, refreshing breezes from the Atlantic. And right now, that's exactly what we need.
Well, I live on the coast, as you know, and yesterday in the garden, yesterday afternoon, not a breath. Exactly what you said. Completely humid, just humid, no movement at all. Arrived in London this morning, there's a bit more of a breeze. There is going to be more of a breeze today, I think, but the temperatures are still going to be extremely... Are you one of those people that stays in with the windows locked and the curtains down? Or because I made the mistake the day before of leaving all the doors open, the house is boiling.
It's, you know, it's hard to know what to do for the best, Jeremy, isn't it? It really is. I like to step outside and I love a little bit of sunshine, but, you know, through the middle part of the day, it's just been too much. I didn't sleep very well last night. Luckily, for the beginning of the week, I was in a hotel in London. That was wonderful. I mean, you step outside, it feels like you've got a hairdryer on you, but inside you've got air conditioning. That's an absolute luxury for most people in this country. And I think going forward, we're going to have to adapt and be more like Europe, where they have really intense heat waves, where temperatures do rocket into the 40s each summer. It's only going to get worse here in the UK. The trends are that within about 12 years, it'll be commonplace to have 40 degrees as a summer. At the moment, we've only ever seen it once.
We love you. We've known each other a long time. Have they phoned you about I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here yet this year?
Absolutely would never do that, Jeremy. Would you?
Only if you do it.
I'm not going down that.
Could we imagine if we did that? It'd be bloody brilliant, mate. It'd be like the old days. Let me tell you, the weather on ITV has never, ever been the same since this woman left. And I mean that with my hand on my heart.
You're a darling. Thank you.
Love you, Clary. See you soon, my darling. Thank you very much indeed. In fact, it's so hot, by the way. Yesterday was the hottest June day, 36.1. Today's going to be hotter. Even Prince Andrew, or did I say Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. Do you think he's going to sweat today? I mean, everybody's sweating. They're sweating next door. We're The aircon is in the studio, but it's about 80 degrees. Everyone's sweating like anything. Let's go to Barry. Good morning, Baz.
Good morning, Jeremy. How are you?
Hot. How are you?
Yeah, it's a bit warm, isn't it?
Where are you? Where are you?
I'm in Norwich.
Let me ask you, how old are you?
55. Nearly 56.
You ever had a pedicure?
No.
OK, crack on then with your call.
Yeah, I just want to comment on... You're throwing me now. Can I make a comment on Andy Burnham, please? Yeah. I just think he's another puppet going to be controlled by the same puppeteers, i.e. the backbenchers. Nothing's going to get done. It's going to be worse, probably. And I just think in this country, we can't have prime ministers being changed like football managers in the Premier League. Yeah, right. We need a general election. Yeah, not once every 5 years. We need it once every 2 years. Yeah, because that's
but the argument with that is, and I'm not criticising you. I love the fact you've called. It's almost the problem is that politicians might have conviction, although I think so many don't, and they might have a plan, although I think so many don't. But let's just say you ended up with a conviction politician. It is very... I like the analogy with Premiership footballers. Managers, you get a 3-year contract. If you lose 10 games, you're out the door with £1 million payoff. The thing about being Prime Minister is they spend, it seems to me, the last few, so much time trying to please everybody else and not upset the markets and not upset the unions and not upset the civil service, that they don't bloody well get anything done. I'm sort of the mindset that if you said to yourself, right, I've probably got 3 years before my party, unless I bring my party with me, or 5 years at most, I'm going to be true to my convictions and I'm going to do exactly what I said I'm going to do. And if that means that 50% of the country hate me or disagree with me, then so bloody be it. I've been voted in with the majority on something that I believe in and the electorate believe in. I just don't see that conviction. And you know, Andy Burnham might well be somebody who's got conviction, but the last 7 members of Parliament that have turned out to be Prime Ministers have not been the sorts of people that you would go, I'm going to follow you because you're prepared to take a bit of criticism and a bit of heat because you believe in something.
I will say this, yeah, right, the last leader we had in this country, right, and I didn't particularly like it because it took my milk from me at school, but was Margaret Thatcher. She wasn't there to make friends. She was there to lead the country, and that's exactly what she done.
I saw a clip last night of her with the late, great Terry Wogan, and he said, they don't seem to make any allowances, pointing at the whole of the cabinet, for you being a woman. And she looked straight at Wogan and went, well, I don't make any allowances for them all being men. What she did was... and many people loathed her and many people loved her. She said, there's my plan. There were 400 Conservative MPs, and if you disagreed with her, she fired you. At the end of 11 years, all 400 have been fired, and they fired her. But the woman stuck to what she believed in. Fact.
And she was there for 11 years. We don't have prime ministers who are there. I mean, she was there for 11 years. I think the Major was there for 5 years. Blair was there for 10 years. And after that, I mean, it's been yeah. So, but yeah, I just think he's going to be controlled by the same. We need a general election, and I don't care what anyone says. You can't have a guy who wasn't even an MP rocking up, being sworn into Parliament, and then 3 weeks later becoming prime minister. We don't even know nothing about the guy. We don't know what he stands for.
Be really interesting, mate. I couldn't agree more. Baz, thank you, my friend. Really appreciate it. 7:30 Thursday, 25th of June. Going to be the hottest day ever today. You heard from Claire Nazir. This could become a more regular thing. We're seeing pictures of Andy Burnham, the would-be Prime Minister, who's already been criticised this morning. He's been called, he's extremely liberal, says Donald Trump. That wasn't a very good impression. He's a mayor of some town. Manchester's quite a big one, Donald. And Kemi Badenoch yesterday going at the Labour Party in general and upsetting as many people as possible. Good morning, Harvey.
Morning, Jezza. It's Harvey from Home Hempstead. I've got a question for you this morning. How can someone that's unelected get one of the biggest jobs in the country, actually the biggest job in the country, with 8,000 votes? Can you make that one make sense?
Kemi Badenoch was front page of the Mail on Sunday this weekend, ruling out the possibility of any electoral pact with reform.
But you know what? It's difficult to do a deal with a party that gave us net zero and wrote it into law. It's difficult to do a deal with a party that promised to do one thing and gave us the Boris wave. So for me, it's about trust. Very difficult to trust them.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just gone 7:30 Thursday morning. It will be the hottest day of the year. Apparently, a wet towel around the neck or a cold pebble on your legs works marvellously. I made a mistake earlier in admitting that I have the occasional pedicure because I have really, really old feet. Morning, Jez. Neil from Telford. If you want to come across more masculine, mate, instead of having a pedicure, use an electric sander like real men out there do. Peter, Chemical Badenoch is the right leader at the wrong time, but I love seeing a lay into Labour. Those hateful expressions make me laugh. Morning, Jez. Twice a year pedicure won't cure your cracked feet, you old git. Try Foot Mender on your feet. The best product. Can't believe cracked feet are a subject on a politics station this morning. Good for you, JK. Keep up with the pedicures. The state of some men's feet is utterly horrendous and a turn-off, says Amanda in London. Sharon Miller says, employ me and I will make you feel so good, says Sharon. Oh, your feet, sorry, I missed the word. Sorry. Employ me and I will make your feet look so good. I misread that. Chris says, use a hot water bottle Put just enough water in it and pop it in the freezer and you'll have a great cooler. Brilliant. And Eileen, come on, this is sweet. I'm recently widowed, Jez, but I just love your show. You're the only one that makes me laugh out loud every single morning. You are my sanity. Thank you so much. Oh, bless you. I don't mean to make you laugh. It's supposed to be deadly serious, but there you go. Well, actually, it's not. I'm bored of being serious. At which point, I'm going to make an announcement. Some weeks ago, when the local elections were on, we couldn't talk about anything political, so we did a show where we said you can talk about anything. Fun Time Friday returns tomorrow, peeps. No politics, nothing boring. Might be about pedicures all day. Fun Time Friday tomorrow on the Home of Common Sense. Morning, Helen.
Morning, Jez. Just wondered if you might possibly consider doing a birthday shout-out to my son, Fred. He's 21 years old today. He's an alarm clock Brit. He's up and getting ready to start his apprenticeship with a local solicitors firm. He grew up watching you on the Jeremy Kyle show, and if there was any chance at all that you could send him a special shout out for his 21st birthday this morning, you would absolutely make his day. Love the show, great work, keep it up. Bye.
Bye. This is what I love. You see, there's most of the people on this station, it's very serious, very political. They go, why are you doing things like that? Because Fred's an alarm clock Brit. He's 21 years of age today. He's got an apprenticeship. He's not sat in his arse doing nothing, claiming benefits. Is he? Good for you, boy. Happy 21st. And I'm sorry your childhood was traumatised by watching the Jeremy Kyle show. Somebody's childhood who wasn't traumatised by watching the Jeremy Kyle show. But we've got a very important question for this morning. We say good morning to Talk's international editor. I've gone very posh. Isabel Oakshott, good morning.
How do you know my childhood wasn't traumatised by watching you?
Was it?
I didn't have a TV, so it couldn't be.
Oh.
That was the thing.
No
TV.
Now, Isabel Oakshott, I don't want you to get offended because we know each other well. I'm looking forward to the wedding. I want you to just, I know it's all very serious, but there's a question I need to ask you this morning.
No, we're not talking about your feet or my feet or Richard's feet.
It's nothing to do with feet. I'm not doing a feet. I'm not talking about your feet, okay? You appear to be an incredibly intelligent, well-spoken journalist.
Okay.
Are you actually a liar who puts the accent on, and in fact, you're a Scottish council living, working woman who resembles Braveheart? Are you a con artist, Isabel Oakshott?
I mean, I could do the accent if you wanted me to, because I grew up in Scotland.
Did you?
You know, I did.
The audience are utterly transfixed by this story. We'll talk in a minute about Burnham, but the Lara Bird story is
incredible. It's incredible. I love it. And you know what? I was just saying to Peter Cardwell last night on his show, because I grew up in Scotland, that accent there was a bit of a hybrid of different parts of Scotland.
Hey!
I knew something was off about that accent. I don't know what it was, because it was a pretty good accent. It sounded like an Edinburgh accent to me, very much an East Coast accent that she put on there, but something sounded a tiny bit off, and I didn't think any more of it.
Right, I want to do this for people who are just tuning in. Leave that footage a minute. There is an MP called Lara Bird who on Monday was sworn into the Commons. She represents Arbroath, and she was sworn in. Now, what firstly was picked up, I just didn't do this for everybody who hasn't heard it, was that when you're supposed to raise your hand and swear allegiance to the King, she did something strange with her fingers that kids do when they're lying, you know, like you cross your fingers. So that was picked up. And beautifully, because I love this country, about 24 hours later, somebody discovered online that in fact, Lara Bird, who pitched up in the Commons going, I swear allegiance to the King. There's also an amazing video of her with a middle-class English accent sticking up for Palestine. I'm going to play you both together. Have a listen, peeps. It's unbelievable.
Make recognition of their state, a state that already exists, a state that has existed for longer than the state of Israel has, for many, many, many generations, for the UK government to completely undermine the humanity of those people, of the Palestinian people.
This oath only so that I can serve the people of Arbroath and Broughty Ferry. My first allegiance is, and always will be, the sovereign people of Scotland. I do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles.
Apart from the fact that I hate the fact her head bobbled and she's done that stupid sign and Peyton doesn't want to be there. Yeah, whatever.
No one speaks with both those accents in normal life. That is not a thing. You might, having lived in, being an English person, you know, I have this accent despite the fact I lived in Scotland for 25 years. And it does, of course, it's going to alter your accent.
Of course. And I shouldn't, listen, I shouldn't say she's a con artist. Somebody's just come into the studio and said to me, which is true, that they go back to Scotland and they become more Scottish. But the difference in those two languages is obscene.
Totally different accents. Interested. I'd be curious to know what school she went to. I bet she's trying to hide the fact she will have gone to a posh private school.
Have you heard about the name? Have you heard about the name this morning?
I have heard about the name. She's called Pyra or Lyra or...
She's not called Lara Bird. She's called Lara Bird hyphen Leakey. She's got a hyphenated double-barreled name.
Oh my God, these lefties! Honestly, what are they? They're not for real, are they? Literally, in her case, I think there's a lot more to come out about her. If I was on a Sunday newspaper, I would be all over that. There's going to be skeletons and stories galore about
I'm sure her defence would be that she's now living in Scotland and that's fine.
Absolute nonsense.
Well, listen, I'm gonna try and balance it out, but it was. Do you know? It sounds really shallow to say this. I didn't like the head bobbing and the disrespect to the king, and I thought to myself, and I'm being genuine here, you don't look like you want to be here, and if you don't, why are you coming to be part of an institution and taking the benefits and taking the salary if at the end of the day you patently disagree with everything to do with it? That was my feeling, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, so much about that was jarring, wasn't it? It was just jarring. I think she was dressed inappropriately. I think her whole manner was inappropriate. Now you've started highlighting the net. It looks like one of my teenagers in a particularly petulant mood. And as for that, you know, sticking the fingers out, it's just awful. It's awful.
It is indeed. Let's move on. Donald Trump came out all guns blazing last night when asked about our new would-be Prime Minister Andy Burnham. Isabel, he said that he's extremely liberal. He's the mayor of some town, but he did, I think, make a really, really salient point. He said that Mr Burnham should, as Keir Starmer refused to, open up the North Sea when he gets into number 10. That is how we would become efficient financially with lower energy costs, which we all know would increase the likelihood of security and success in the United Kingdom.
Well, I mean, he's obviously completely right about that. And at this point, if Andy Burnham did a couple of really counterintuitive things, if he made it his mission in his first week or two of being Prime Minister to A, stop the boats, actually stop the boats, you know, use the Navy or do whatever it takes, stop the boats, and B, announce, you know, basically a free-for-all on oil and gas, I think Labour would win the next election if he held it quickly. I genuinely think it would be utterly transformational. People would still be thinking, oh, this Andy Burnham guy, he's something different. Maybe he's a bit like Tony Blair. You know, some of the people floating in the middle on the voting front might buy into it. I think he could win an election.
So could he spell trouble for reform? Genuine question.
Absolutely, if he did those things. Absolutely. If I were advising him, I'd be saying to him, Andy, shock everybody and stop the boats. Find a way to stop the boats. Get the Navy out. Do whatever it takes, you know, to hell and high water with international treaties. Show that you are very, very different from the man you've just replaced. And if you do that, you know, reform's had a bit of a tough couple of weeks, well, really since Makerfield. I think that he could really twist the knife. But is he going to do that? I'd be astonished.
Well, this is the issue, isn't it? We all know that financially we're in a mess because of extraordinarily large benefit bills. We know that we are financially screwed because we refuse to use a real asset and something that could change the nature of this country. Two of those things that Peyton and he doing, he wouldn't do. And Poppy Coburn from The Telegraph sort of intimated earlier, Isabel, that what she thinks will happen will be little things to sort of placate certain members of the party, but nothing that shows the conviction. But more than that, the ability to make a decision that might not you being popular 100% of the time. I don't know Burnham. I'm patriotic. I want my country to be better than it is. But I get the feeling that he's a bit of a people pleaser, but I could be totally wrong.
No, I think he is. You know, I said to Peter last night, I'm slightly dreading being disillusioned by him as being the one thing I know he definitely is, which is a nice guy. And once you're in number 10, it's much harder to be a nice guy, isn't it? You know, duty calls on a very, very grand scale. And it's much easier to make small mistakes that become huge mistakes in a role like that. So I hope he goes on seeming like a nice guy and being a nice guy. But I really wish for him, for our country, actually, not for him, for our country, that he will do some things that will make him very unpopular with his own people. I think that's pretty unlikely.
Great to have you on. And we did a whole interview without asking you about pedicures, because I said I wouldn't and I won't. But Lara Bird is the story of the morning. Isabel, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Almost just gone 7:45, actually, Thursday morning, 25th of June. With Talks, the home of common sense. It's where your views on the day's news are more than welcome. Steve Baker, former Conservative government minister, he was behind Brexit. We'll get his views on what's happening at the moment after the break, which is next. Morning, Dave.
Morning, Jezza. Dave in Leyland, working in the automotive industry with the sun blazing down on my back, leaning over the top of a boiling hot engine. I can't not go to work, can I? Because I'm self-employed. Anyway, have a great day.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. 12 minutes to 8. JK until 10. Julia from 10 this morning. Ian Collins, you heard there from 1, and Kevin O'Sullivan on drive. For information, says Jim, as we approach the hottest day ever in history, he says Norfolk coast, misty, breezy, cool and grey. Let's all go to Norfolk then, because it's bloody roasting here in London. Amanda attacks the subject again about me admitting, apparently it destroys my image, to having a pedicure because I've got crap feet. Love you. Carry on getting a pedicure, Jez. I actually did one for my husband last night. Flip-flop ready feet. Great show as always. Mandy in Leyland. My next guest, I'm going to ask him the question. He's going to pretend as an ex-government he's not going to answer it. Steve Baker, good morning.
Oh no, what's it going to be? Good morning.
Pedicures for men?
I have never had a pedicure, but why not?
Good. See, that's a politician's answer, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, it's a politician. Mate, so much to talk about. So great to have you in. How hot is it out there?
It's too hot. It feels quite hot in here now I've sat down, but it was cool when I walked in, which shows how hot it is out there. It's awful.
Andy Burnham.
Yes.
Is his elevation in the short space of 12 days from not being an MP to being on the cusp of Downing Street without even the nominations opening, is this a good thing about British politics? Because it was a coup that certainly worked. How long was it in the making? What do you make of it all?
Well, I think it is probably a good thing for British politics. Perhaps my time will come. Perhaps I will return triumphantly to be welcomed by the Conservative Party. It doesn't seem likely. But I do think it's quite a good thing. But isn't it interesting they couldn't find anyone within the ranks of Labour MPs? They had to go to Andy Burnham, who did, of course, walk away from the Labour Party when it got incredibly hard and they needed to remove Jeremy Corbyn. That was actually Keir Starmer's great service to our country. He did whatever it took, adopted whatever position he needed to, in order to remove Jeremy Corbyn.
But the argument in response to that would be, when Starmer pretended to be a Corbynista and then became Prime Minister and got rid of the Corbynistas, that to me showed you exactly what the man was.
Well, absolutely,
a chameleon with no conviction of one direction.
I wasn't saying I admired it. I admired the Tiggers. The Tiggers at least left the Labour Party, and I was actually advising them, but they were blown up by the European elections. But on Andy Burnham, I mean, I don't think he believes very much at all. I think he believes he should be Prime Minister, and I think he will listen to his MPs and do whatever he needs to do to try and carry them along.
Do you think he'll be a bigger success than Starmer? People are saying there will be a bounce simply because of the sort of character he is.
I think he'll be popular briefly, but if we just step back, he faces exactly the same problem as Starmer. The welfare state's running out of money, and he's got a very large number of Labour MPs who really only understand spending more money. They say it in very sophisticated ways.
But what if this is the point that I want? So this is my point. So this man's come. He's been sort of summoned like the last chance to save the Labour Party, becoming almost as extinct with respect as many people believe the Tory Party is. Does he have the nous, or do they have the ability to say, listen, if you want this party to not die in 3 years, we're going to have to cut the welfare benefits. Well, it might be against what so many of you believe in, but it's about time you got a bit more realistic. Does he have the conviction to do that? Does he just want 3 years and he doesn't care, or does he actually genuinely believe, do you think, that he could make a difference?
I do not think he will be able to pull off that trick, which he should do. What you've just said is what he should do. And
I would say to them, you're all going to lose your seats anyway, so you better bloody well trust me.
But they'd rather, I think, most of them, they'd rather
lose their seats.
They'd rather stand by what they believe for 3 years and lose their seats. And I think they just won't take the heat in the moment. Look, members of Parliament, in the end, they want to carry the public moment by moment. They're looking at their inbox and they're surfing these great waves of dissatisfaction from the public. So I think it's more likely than not that he will fail, because his MPs, they're expecting magic. They're expecting his charisma, such as it is, to carry them through, when actually the problem is there are insufficient real resources to tax at these levels and spend in the way they would like. So, yeah, maybe Burnham does. Do you know, I'm starting to think you should be a party leader. If you turned up and said to them, this is what you've got to do to survive,
I don't
maybe
understand.
They do it.
It's a bit like, I had a friend years ago who got offered a really big job in entertainment.
Yeah.
And they'd had 5 people in 7 years. And he said to me, what's the point of me taking it? Because they'll just get rid of me. I said, well, why don't you go with the mindset of, you're going to go in with the views that you've got, right? Believing that you might last a year, and you might surprise yourself and you lasted 8 years. You've got to be true to yourself. I just don't see any politicians that go, do you know what, I don't care. I'd be stood in front of the Labour Party and go, listen, here's the facts. This party is near extinction. And unless we do stuff that might be unpalatable to some of you, will all be out of jobs and we will never return to power. That is what I would be saying to them. So take my medicine or I'll do one, or I'll get rid of you. Because that's what Thatcher did. Don't agree with me, you're out.
I tell you what, that's a great strategy and he should probably adopt it.
What did you think of Donald saying he's extremely liberal and the mayor of a town somewhere in England?
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious commentary, as so often from Donald Trump. By liberal, of course, he means socialist.
Right about the North Sea, though.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, you know, low energy creates growth, isn't it?
Well, that's it. I mean, we need abundant energy. We should be taking more oil from the North Sea. We should be going for nuclear. We should be reducing subsidies to intermittent sources of power like solar and wind. And we should be getting on with it. It's really serious. We need more air conditioning, everybody can see that. But instead, we've got a planning system which makes putting air conditioning into new housing difficult.
What did you make of Kemi Badenoch yesterday laying into the Cabinet, actually, and specifically the spiteful class warrior, her words, not mine, Bridget Phillipson?
I thought she was absolutely within the bounds of what's allowed in Parliament. I thought she was very typically Kemi and hard-edged and serious in what she's saying. She meant what she said about spite, and she meant what she said about people betraying one another. The Speaker pulled her up, and I think he's going to have to be careful. I actually supported him because I thought he was politically impartial. But I worry for him.
Did he pull up Angela Rayner when she called the Tories scum?
I don't think he did.
Yeah.
And over the years, I watched Labour MPs on opposition days say terrible things that cut you to the absolute quick when we were cutting spending, such as we were. So politics is a rough contact sport. There are bounds on what we should say, but I don't think Kemi crossed them.
I just thought that Phillipson... I mean, she was talking about, of course, Kemi, a poll out yesterday that said that 0% of teachers think that Bridget Phillipson's doing a good job with the education.
Marvellous.
So you read that out. She didn't like it.
Of course she didn't like it. But, you know, I've got great sympathy for Bridget Phillipson, having grown up in poverty. I grew up in a normal family where occasionally there may be tough times, but we weren't actually in poverty.
Yeah, but did you use that every day? I was born in a council house, which is what she does.
No. And...
That's what Kemi means about class warrior.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people need to let it go. I mean, it is great that she's made it to the cabinet. Of course it is. It's brilliant. But enough, you know. What does it mean for other people?
Yeah,
and other people's children? That's what they're there for. Not to parade who they are or who they were, but instead to serve people by making the education system better. And I think their policies will make it worse.
One would love much more time. What's your view? Burnham will win. Who do you think will be Chancellor?
I think probably Wes Streeting.
Who do you think will be Foreign Secretary?
Well, see, now that's a very interesting question.
And whether Shabana Mahmood will stay?
See, Ed Miliband needs to be removed from the energy brief. And Foreign Secretary's one job, because it's a job everybody would love to have, I think. So it might be Ed Miliband, because then it's a job he would legitimately take, gets him out of energy, off he goes abroad, stops doing harm, and of course Ed Miliband will love it, which will mean that he won't be whining as they wind back the net zero policies. So maybe that's what I'd do. Maybe it's too much to hope for.
Apparently, Louise Hay, convicted fraudster, she's going to make a return. She's got the trendy bob. Angela's coming back. Lucy Powell's going to replay. But perhaps the most exciting news of the week so far is it doesn't look like David Lammy's going to have a job.
Oh dear, poor David Lammy.
The inspiration for us all.
The man who said that the ERG were worse than Nazis and then doubled down on it when pressed. I mean, God bless him, but I will not be sad if he is not in the cabinet.
Do you know him?
Oh, we know one another to speak to. He's actually been very nice to me in the green room of various TV studios. And I forgive him, but you can't behave like that without consequence. You know, he said a really inflammatory, wholly untrue, wicked thing, doubled down on it, and he deserves not to be in the cabinet.
Great to have you here, my mate, and thank you. We want you to become more than a regular. The excellent Steve Baker on Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense, and where your views on the day's news are more than welcome. We start the next hour with Robert Jenrick from Reform. The news at 8 is next.
Join me, Rob Jenrick, on the Jeremy Carr Breakfast Show on Talk.
There's a lot of harm happening in the country right now. People feel like the country's in a mess. Why is it so difficult for this Labour government to just say what a woman is? To believe in basic biology and common sense? Take away these human rights laws, which have got completely out of control now. You know, I do believe that economies can be fixed and you can get catch-up growth. On illegal migration, we're very clear. We're going to detain and deport absolutely everyone who enters our country illegally.
Ring in, ask me any question. I'm here to answer.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I swear by Almighty God that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles, his heirs and successors, according to law. So help me God.
It's happened before, but it is nonetheless still rather extraordinary that somebody who was only elected or officially sworn in as an MP less than 24 hours ago, in 3 weeks' time, is going to be running the country.
Yes, I think it is rather extraordinary. I think the issue isn't whether someone like that should automatically have to hold a general election. If Andy Burnham wants to introduce major changes to our constitution, he's talked about overhauling the House of Lords. He's also talked about overhauling our electoral system, bringing in some form of PR. I think if he wants to do any of those things, he needs a mandate from the public to do them. To try and do them without calling an election, I think, would be a constitutional outrage.
I've got an interesting tweet. There's always a tweet, Julia. Yep. If I can just read this out to you from Andy Burnham 3 years ago. We need to start demanding a general election at the end of this Tory leadership election. Well, well, well. That was Andy Burnham actually 4 years ago in 2022. So we're saying stick by your word, be consistent, Andy, and when you're Prime Minister, call a general election.
The battle is really on, though, for number 11. Who's going to be the Chancellor? Ed Miliband, don't forget, has played an integral key role in this coup, and it is a coup because no one apart from 25,000 good people of Makerfield have voted for this guy. Yeah. So he's played a pretty integral role in undermining Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer and Ed Miliband aren't really speaking. He's going to want a big reward. But, he is, probably the most left-wing person in the government, and he will spook the markets.
Lou Hay, I mean, the reality is, look, she served her time. She was cast out of government. The reality is, as you said, she has been central to his campaign. She was central to his campaign in Makerfield. More broadly, she's been central to his campaign to enter Downing Street. He owes her, and she will definitely get a role. I'm not.
What do you say to the people that have texted me in their droves this morning? It's a really corny sentence, but it's true. That lawbreakers can't be lawmakers, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, but the reality is she's going to get a job. So the answer is yes, they can.
Across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends, or welcome along. Just gone 8 o'clock. Ring Rob, Robert Jenrick, in the studio in the next 35 minutes. If you want to set a question to Robert Jenrick about reform, about anything that you are concerned about, 0344 499 1000, your text to 87222. Robert Jenrick will be here in just a tick. The story that has got everybody going is the story of Lara Bird, the SNP, the newly elected SNP member for Arbroath, who arrived the other day at the Commons to be sworn in, and whilst being sworn in, sort of head bobbing, she didn't look like she was very happy to be there. She did something strange with her fingers, which kids do when they're lying. It was a very, very good Scottish accent, and a lot of people were saying this was inappropriate and you should have been a bit more respectful of the institution. You're coming down here, you're getting the salary and all those sorts of things. We discovered we discovered that that actually she's also, well, she's not Scottish. Whether she's Scottish or not English. She's saying she's half English and half Scottish, but there's an extraordinary clip of her speaking very clipped English and supporting Palestine. We've also found out this morning she's not actually called Lara Bird. She's called Pyra Lara Bird -Leakey, which is a double-barreled name, and she went to a fee-paying school somewhere in the middle of England. I've got to start with this clip because it's bloody brilliant. This is the English accent first, supporting Palestine, followed by the new accent she's adopted as an SNP Scottish Member of Parliament. Have a listen.
Make recognition of their state, a state that already exists, a state that has existed for longer than the state of Israel has, for many, many, many generations, For the UK government to completely undermine the humanity of those people, of the Palestinian people.
This oath only so that I can serve the people of Arbroath and Broughty Ferry. My first allegiance is, and always will be, the sovereign people of Scotland. I do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles.
Welcome, Robert Jenrick, Reform Shadow Chancellor. Obviously, we have to be careful, and you know, she says she's half English and half Scottish. That's extraordinary, man.
so it's not her real name. She may not actually be Scottish.
No.
And it's not her voice.
No. So Lara Bird is reprising Mel Gibson's role in the retelling of the Scottish hero Braveheart, says Stuart in Manchester.
I thought she was actually quite disrespectful the way she behaved. Because there are MPs. I mean, not these are not people I support, but there are these MPs who don't take their place in Parliament because they don't want to swear the oath of allegiance
Sinn Féin
to the king, the Sinn Féin.
Yes.
And in a sense, you have to admire that more than her, who comes and just sort of makes a mockery of the whole thing.
There was a lot of sort of...
If you don't want to swear the oath of allegiance to our king and country, don't take your seat in our Parliament.
Well, I sort of agree with that. And she sort of added the caveat at the beginning, didn't she, about how Scottish people came first. But yeah, it's not going away. I've breaking news, so we'll from Rachel Reeves, who's back out this morning, backing Burnham to be the next Prime Minister and still standing by her record as Chancellor. Let's cut straight to it, Rob. An extraordinary few days in politics. To be unelected, to win Makerfield, to be a shoo-in, despite the fact nominations haven't even opened. I'm not having a go at Andy Burnham. I don't know the man. But it is fascinating to watch them all running around now, trying to kowtow to him to get a job.
Yeah, it's a sad indictment of politics where everybody rushes around now. So you had Rachel Reeves, who didn't stand outside Downing Street when the Prime Minister gave his resignation speech so that she could go and do a selfie on the steps. Although she looked quite glum, it has to be said.
She looked like a marshmallow. Did you see the suit?
She looked quite glum. But, I mean, the idea that she would be kept on and...
Do you not think she will? Because there's
I don't know.
There was a lot of talk yesterday about how women would have the big four offices of state. So I'm going to ask you, who do you think will be Chancellor?
Well, I simply don't know. I mean, they're all in different ways very worrying. I mean, the most disturbing of all is Ed Miliband, because he has, whilst others have just been incompetent...
Steve Baker just said he thought the best way to deal with Miliband is to make him Foreign Secretary, get him out of energy and send him off on foreign jaunts so he can't cause too much trouble.
Well, the best thing would be to sack him and remove him from government. But on a serious note, if he is given a senior role, particularly in one of the economic departments, like Energy Secretary, Chancellor, I think we know from day one that Burnham is not serious about getting growth going again in this...
Who would you most
importantly, the thing is, but one of the things that Burnham says, which I agree with him on, is that we've got to re-industrialise our country. You know, my mum and dad are from the north, my dad is from Manchester, I've grown up in the West Midlands, represent the East Midlands. I share with Andy Burnham a desire to get some life back into the industries of our country. We cannot just deindustrialise year after year after year. But the way to do that is to have a sane energy policy again as a country. You cannot make anything if our energy prices are the highest in the industrial world. If you own a factory in the UK and you know that you could run the same factory in Texas and pay electricity prices that were 1/5 of what they are in Staffordshire, you know, that is the route to the decimation of our country.
And it's interesting because
if he keeps Miliband as Energy Secretary, or even promotes him to Chancellor, we know that he is not serious about reindustrialising.
It's really interesting. Poppy Coburn was in from the Telegraph, said exactly the same as you. Said you look at the Trump last night saying he's a liberal, he's that, but he made the point about North Sea. And my point about Andy Burnham, to you as a politician, you know far more than me. There will be a honeymoon period. There will be a time where they listen to him. Do you think he has the balls, let's lay it out there, to stand in front of the Parliamentary Labour Party and say there are two things that need to happen, none of which is going to be particularly nice for you lot, but I'm your man, this party will be extinct like the Tories unless you listen. We need to start drilling in the North Sea, and we need to attack a bloated welfare benefits bill that is screwing this country into the ground. Isabel Oakeshott said, if he did one of those two things, that could cause problems for reform, but she doesn't think in a million years that he would be able or willing to do that, because most prime ministers, certainly on the Labour side it seems, and the Tory side, spend so much time to balance every single part of the party.
Last night I went to the House of Commons where there was a vote on what's called the carbon budget, which is a very technical thing, but it's the next stage in the climate change agenda, where arbitrary targets dictate the government doing all sorts of mad things that are just going to increase energy prices. And Richard Tice gave a great speech for reform. There were some others who spoke against it. But Labour MP after Labour MP queued up to say that this was all wonderful, total disregard for jobs, for growth, for business in this country, and for their own constituents' energy bills, which keep going higher and higher. So I don't think that in a million years that
but what if he did? But what if he turned out to be the Thatcherite? The Thatcher conviction politician who said, and I'm just putting this to you: listen, you lot, we are dead unless we drill and cut that, and I'm telling you that, and that's going to happen. What would that do to reform?
Well, that would be tough for us, because that would be a return to sanity, wouldn't it? But I don't believe that. But my view of Andy Burnham, and this isn't whether he's a good bloke or not. I've always had perfectly good dealings with him in the past. It's that his politics are very, very similar to those of Keir Starmer. He is Keir Starmer in a polo shirt. He's a more human version of Keir Starmer. He believes in increasing your energy bills to pursue net zero. Ed Miliband has been his friend and mentor. He believes in continuing to increase taxes in order to pay for the ballooning welfare bill, and he believes in open borders and has welcomed asylum seekers and refugees for many, many years. So the agenda...
And let's not forget no grooming gang inquiry.
And there's a poor record on that. So the agenda that has driven this country into the ground over the last 2 years, so just furthered the decline of our country, is just going to continue under Keir Starmer, under Andy Burnham. And that was a Freudian slip.
Some questions straight away. Robert Jenrick is here. Call Rob, 0344 499 1000. Text your questions, 87222. Jez, down from Kent, could you please ask Robert if Reform UK win the next election with a good majority, will they change the constitution slightly by putting in a simple rule that if a government's leader goes, it automatically triggers a general election? We need to stop this undemocratic behaviour of new prime ministers 7 in 10 years.
Well, I'm very sympathetic to that. Look, we don't have a written constitution. All these things are just conventions. But if you have a prime minister who's been elected in a general election and then they're booted out by their MPs, they need to get a mandate at that point. And, when the last Conservative government didn't always do that, you saw the public's respect for those individuals and for the party disintegrate
and for politics in general
rapidly. And actually, the prime ministers who did then go and seek their own mandate, like Boris did, within 6 months of becoming prime minister, at least initially, it gave him a massive boost because he was able to stand on a very different platform, get Brexit done, levelling up, the different things that he set out to achieve. So I do think we need a general election right now, and that what particularly sticks in the throat with Andy Burnham is he campaigned over and over again when the Tory party was constantly changing leaders to have a general election. And so he's a massive hypocrite if he doesn't go and do it himself now.
Somebody said this morning, but I wanted to ask this of you anyway, because I do have a strong feeling, and we're not always going to agree with everybody that we spend time with. What you just said about prime ministers, I agree. I've said it to you privately, I also believe that very strongly when MPs are elected for one party and then change. I've said this to you privately, and I'd love you to on air to say it, because I feel like you could say that it's the same locally in that instance as it is nationally, because what you're saying is, I stood as, in your instance, a Tory, I've made a decision to go to reform. Not a decision I disagree with, right? Everybody knows that. But how do you know that the people that voted for you as a Tory agree with you? Did you take soundings? That I think is a really salient question.
I did take soundings, and look, I am confident that if there was a general election tomorrow, that the good people of my constituency would re-elect me as a Reform MP. And I am asking, I am demanding a general election. Yep. So look, I am happy to put myself up for election in my constituency of Newark.
Did you serious question, because I've asked this of Suella, did you gauge opinion in the constituency?
I did. You did. Yeah, and particularly in the the Christmas period when I was really mulling this over in my own mind, I went to the local rugby clubs and pubs. I chatted to people.
You do a lot
friends.
in the constituency.
I did a lot of different things, and I specifically asked people who were not Reform, well, as far as I was aware, you know, Reform members or anything like that, but just ordinary members of the public, to get a sense of where they stood, and came to a very firm conclusion that like me, people have been on a similar journey, and lifelong Tories locally were now Reform members.
This is from Mary. It's a great question. So if the Tories had won power and you were the leader and you'd beaten Kemi, you'd have called a general election?
Well, if there was a change in...
Yeah.
Or if I was... Sorry, what's your question?
So if Kemi had won the election, she'd become unpopular after 6 months, and they turned to you, would you have called a general election? It's a good question, isn't it, to be fair?
Well, I hope I would have done. I tell you why. Because I do think that you have such a short window as a new Prime Minister to make change happen, and that comes out of you having a personal mandate from the public. If you don't achieve that, then you're just a prisoner of your backbenchers, of a discredited manifesto, and nothing ever happens. And if you think, like I do, that our country is in a right state at the moment, and it needs radical change, then you know, you just have to go to the country and tell people honestly what you think needs to be done.
And I think that radical change is what the British people are calling out for. Just stick to their guns, certainly reform. Hannah says, can I ask Rob quickly, if reform would reverse the tax rate on independent schools? 2 have closed in a rural area where they were the main employers, not just teachers, but cooks, cleaners and groundskeepers. My daughter's school is making redundancies in order to survive. It is disgusting, and we are not rich. We just made sacrifices for the sake of our children. I love this text. It's not all about Harrow and Eton. This disgusting policy must be scrapped. Hear, hear, Hannah.
Hear, hear. Look, reform is a part of working people, but we're not a party of the politics of envy. There are decent people in this country who are scrimping and saving to send their kids to private schools, who are not millionaires, who are not going on foreign holidays, who are driving around in old cars, who are, you know, not moving to a nicer house because they prize education.
Yeah.
And it's often the people, in my experience, who didn't get a good education themselves. Maybe it's, you know, working class people who made good and have got a bit of money, and they want to give their kids or grandkids the best possible education. And this tax is an assault on them and their aspirations for their children. And so, yes, if we're lucky enough to form the next government, we will reverse this.
Dave says, what do you make of Reeves deciding to tax tax-free ISAs?
Oh, astonishing. Only somebody like Rachel Reeves would take a tax-free savings product and apply a tax on it. So the parting gift of Rachel Reeves is that she is going to come for your ISA now and apply a 22% tax. I mean, absolutely unbelievable. Well, we're going to fight this every step of the way. I'm going to hopefully raise it in Parliament later today and try and put as much pressure on her and her successor as possible to reverse this decision. You know, there's 20 million people in this country who have an ISA, very popular. She's already reduced the amount of cash you're able to put into them down to £12,000, a big reduction.
From 30, right?
From 20, hurting,
is it 20?
Hurting savers. But now she's going to come and tax them. But it seems to be absolutely insane when the whole idea is this is tax-free.
Also, front page of the Mail, we'll go to the caller in a second, although we've covered that subject. This is a disgusting story. Ockenden, of course, in the Nottinghamshire area, you know this very well. Hundreds of babies and mothers died or were left seriously injured at a toxic hospital trust where women were ignored and mistakes covered up, a report has found. The damning review that exposed the biggest maternity scandal in NHS history found a culture of bullying, where speaking up was dangerous and bosses' responses were shaped by self-protection. When families did complain about care at the Nottinghamshire University Hospital's NHS Trust, they were met with intimidating, male-dominated panels who were dismissive of non-medical voices. You represent, you're a Nottinghamshire MP. What's your response to that appalling story?
Yeah, it is absolutely shocking. There's a number of my own constituents who came to see me and then gave evidence to Don Ockenden and the report, and they were treated just in the most appalling ways. You know, women treated with disdain, mocked. Obviously, the very poor care that led to the premature deaths of hundreds of babies.
It's awful.
It is absolutely astonishing. One couple came to see me, and this is by no means the worst incident, but gives you a sense of the culture that there was at that time in the maternity unit. and they'd not had very long with their baby who'd been born, stillborn, and a midwife came in to see them and said that your time is up, you need to go, and they were then sort of shooed out of the ward, and they just literally sat on the curb outside the hospital, just hugged each other and cried. And they said it was like, you know, if you're in a restaurant and the rude waiter comes and tells you that the next people are coming in and your slot is.
Do you think this Auckland report will lead to?
Well, I hope it. I hope
change.
it does.
Will people be held to account as a result?
Well,
it's an appalling
there have
story.
been arrests actually made already, because one of the things that was uncovered, which I didn't know of until yesterday, was that the mortuary service at the hospital had been run in an appalling way, where babies' bodies had been put in like a normal domestic fridge, had been referred to as clinical waste. Were decaying.
It's not. It's not the great. If you are Chinny, it's not the greatest subject, but it is such an appalling. This Auckland report into this hospital.
The other thing that is very shocking is that this isn't unique. There's been a similar report in Shrewsbury. There's been scandals in Morecambe, in Sussex, in Leeds. There is a national problem with maternity services in this country, and I do actually think it warrants a bigger national statutory inquiry. But at the very least, you know, radical national change has to happen.
OK, 0344 499 1000. Ring Rob is on. Text to 87222. Craig, good morning.
Good morning, Rob. This is Craig in Ilkley. So the economic plight of this country is dire, and there are only 9 million net contributors in the country at the moment. So those are people who are putting in more than they get out. And if we think about inward migration, there is, in my view, one standout community or group of people that are most likely to be net contributors to this country, and that are the Hong Kong B&O passport holders. So can I ask what Reform's position is to this one particular group, the Hong Kong B&Os? Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Rob?
Yeah, very good question. And the first part of the question is absolutely right. There are just not enough people who are net contributors in this country, and we've got to stop importing people who end up taking more than they receive. And so the immigration policy that Yusuf and Nigel Farage have set out is very clear. You're only going to be able to come into this country if you're clearly a net contributor.
Thank God for that.
You know, which seems very simple.
When I say that to people, they look at me sometimes and they go, well, that's common sense, isn't it? And you go, obviously you're not paying your own people who paid into a system, you're paying people who didn't.
If you think of the people who came over in the Boris wave, firstly, 80% of them were not in work anyway. Yeah. So only 20% were even coming to work. And most of those people were essentially low-wage, low-skilled migrants who will end up costing something like 400 or 500 grand if they live in this country for the rest of their lives. And we are just, you know, we are not a rich country. We cannot afford to be doing this. We should be prioritising British people first. With respect to the Hong Kongers, look, I think that scheme will, in time, prove to be a success. I have a big Hong Kong community, actually, in my own constituency, and by and large, people are integrating quite well and should, in time, be economic contributors. Actually, the data isn't so compelling right now. Currently, on average, that's not the case, because I think some found it harder than they expected to transfer things like their professional qualifications that they had back home in Hong Kong to the UK and get the kind of good jobs that they probably will do in time. But it should be a scheme which succeeds, and you've got people who actually make a good contribution to the UK.
Jeremy Carl's got a question. It struck me this the other day, Rob, and I wanted to ask you about it. You represent Nottinghamshire. The evil Callacane, who killed, of course, Barnaby, Webber and Grace, and also, obviously, the school caretaker. His mother, who's been amazing, has been on the show several times, and, of course, we had the end of the inquest and the inquiry. So many parts of that were to blame. She told me something that makes this is me as a listener, makes my blood run cold. And if Reform ever got anywhere near government, please tell me you do something about this. Victor Callacane is cowering in a mental hospital, having been released because apparently certain people thought it would be racist to keep him. They knew what trouble he was. He's getting, Robert Jenrick, more than £1,000 a month in benefits, whilst he sits in a high-security mental institution, not prison, for having stabbed 3 people to death on the streets of the United Kingdom. And you wonder sometimes, not you, why alarm clock Brits go, where's the fairness, where's the common sense?
No, that is absolutely astonishing, and you're right, it is something that we should look at, because
How is that right?
It is, yeah, and I have heard other examples. It's insane that people are kind of racking up a sort of, a nest egg, whilst they're living at our pleasure in a secure mental hospital, a prison, having committed absolutely heinous crimes. The way in which some people are treated, to be honest, whether it's in mental institutions like that or in prisons, is astonishing. I mean, when I was Shadow Justice Secretary, I looked into some of these people like the Southport killer, Axel Ruda-Cabana, who was getting like Nintendo and Haribo. He was able to choose, you know, the sweets and sort of fizzy drinks that he wanted. Unbelievable, isn't it? These are people who basically, if you ask the average person on the street what should happen to them, they would say the death penalty.
Or they'd say lock them up and throw the key away, not tell them they can have a Nintendo.
They want like solitary confinement.
Yeah.
They do not want to think these people are living, you know, playing on their Xbox.
Having a better life than theirs. Yeah. Let's go to Brighton. Paul, you're through to Robert Jenrick. Good morning, mate.
Hello there, Jeremy. Yeah, Robert, you kind of answered the question I was going to ask you insofar as you said you're prepared to stand at the next election as a reform candidate. But my point would be that surely if you change parties mid-term, then that should trigger a by-election, and then your constituents should be able to choose whether you represent them as a Conservative or as Reform. The other point I would like to make is Jeremy's often said that Kemi Badenoch is the right person at the wrong time. Please, please, please tell me that you and Nigel would do a deal with Kemi just to get rid of this socialist nonsense that we've got running the country at the moment. Whatever you do, please bring Kemi into the fold, because you've got to do something to get rid of this lot, even if you have to take that guy, Mr. Binface, and have him in your party. Anything, please. But you've got to get rid of this lot. They are just destroying us.
Yeah, well, I don't disagree with that point. Well, I'm not going to do a pact with Count Binface, but I do. Look, we've got to get rid of this government.
Is that a softening? You know me, I do the job. Is that? Hear me out, Seth, because I used to ask you and ask Nigel the very same question that Paul's just put, which is, if push comes to shove, and politics is now far more different parties, and yes, you've led in 314 polls, I know that probably better than you, but, right, the fact is, if it got 2 years down the line, and I know I speak for Paul and many others in this country, and you were on 28, 29%, and there wasn't the chance of an overall majority, and there was a chance with those Greens and the Labour Party could actually get back, wouldn't the right owe it to the British people and to this country to put aside whatever and do a deal so that we don't have to go through this purgatory again? That's what you mean, Paul, right?
Exactly, and please, even if you could kiss and make up with Rupert Lowe, just get him on board. We've got to get rid of this lot. They are just killing us.
Robert?
Yeah, look, well, Paul, I understand your motivation, and we all feel the same. We've got to get rid of them, but my view, and this is actually one of the reasons why I chose to leave the Conservative Party and join Reform, is that the way to unite the right is to back the party which has the viable path to win the next general election. And at the moment, there is no path, none whatsoever, for Kemi and the Conservatives to win the election.
And neither for Restore
and obviously none for Restore. I mean, Restore would be lucky to win one constituency, Rupert's own, if there was a general election tomorrow. The only party on the right that has any viable prospect of winning the next general election is Reform. And that was what went through my mind. I came to the conclusion, I'm certain this is right, all the evidence backs it up, that if Nigel Farage is not our Prime Minister after the next general election, it will be Andy Burnham. That's just a simple choice. And so everyone that shares our views has to wrestle with that, and I suspect many millions more will come to the same conclusion I did, that you've got to rally behind Nigel, make him our Prime Minister, get Reform over the line. So the way to unite to the right is to back Reform.
Paul, thank you very much indeed. Let's do a voice note. This is a question for you. Where is this? Trevor, good morning. You're through to Rob.
Good morning, Jeremy, on this beautiful day. I'm just wondering if you could ask Robert Jenrick if he was appalled at the language Lisa Nandy used against him in Parliament yesterday by calling him disgusting. You had the Labour people pearl clutching yesterday about the language used. I just wondered what he felt about that, and has he complained to the Speaker?
I don't know about this. Fill me in, RJ.
Oh, yeah. So Lisa Nandy said that I was disgusting. And, well, I think she said reform was disgusting.
Did you cry
by
last
extension,
night?
I did not.
No,
I did not, no.
Fair.
But it does show what hypocrite they all are, that they're suddenly, oh, I'm so upset that, you know, someone else has been nasty to us. But the point, I don't know if you're aware of this, the point that I was making was that Lisa Nandy, who's the Culture Secretary for now, well, she's a mate of Andy Burnham, so maybe she'll continue as the Culture Secretary. But anyway, she is proposing that the government draws up a list of all the media outlets that they consider to be so-called trustworthy, and then armed with this list, they then force the social media companies to give prominence to the trustworthy people
that the government have decided.
That the government like.
Well, that's state control.
Favourites.
That's the state control of the media.
And all the ones that are so presumably untrustworthy.
Wow.
Whoever that is, maybe that's talk. I've no idea who is untrustworthy.
Well, certainly for the Labour Party, they will be. Yeah.
You don't get to see them then. So you pick up your phone. Wow. You know, you look at X or Facebook, whatever it is, and presumably the Guardian, Channel 4 News, and the BBC then flood your stream, and Talk, GB News, whatever it is, suddenly you have to, you know, scroll.
You just thought you'd stand up like anybody, millions,
I just said
and say that doesn't make sense.
I just said perfectly reasonably, hang on a minute, this sounds a bit dystopian to me. Whatever happened to freedom of speech and freedom of the press?
And you're disgusting,
and
Robert
I'm disgusting for that. And tell you one thing, there was only one other Member of Parliament in this debate who made the same point. Everybody else said it was a good idea.
Wow. Do they listen or believe or understand what the British public are thinking? Let's do a call quickly. Richard's in North London. Morning, Richard.
Hello, Jeremy. Can I ask Robert, one of the big problems I think we've had is that when we voted for Brexit, we thought we would be able to control our borders, but it turns out that the Labour Party passed the Human Rights Act in 1998, which effectively means that our country is open to everybody. And my worry is that if reform don't get a big enough majority, you may not be able to leave the European Convention of Human Rights. And I guess my proposal to you is, do you have a plan B here in case the majority isn't that big? And would you, for instance, it occurs to me that both Hungary and Poland are both within the European Convention of Human Rights, but they're able to control their borders very, very strictly.
Yeah. Good, well, very, very important question. And the last point you make is right. You know, when I was having these arguments, ultimately I resigned from Rishi's cabinet over this. I said to him, well, if you don't want to leave the European Convention on Human Rights, just ignore it. Because that's what all of these other European countries do. I mean, Turkey is a signatory of it, and Erdogan goes around doing all sorts of actual human rights abuses, like locking up judges and things. So there's plenty of perfectly respectable European countries like France and Germany and so on who ignore the rulings on occasion.
But isn't
of
it
the
always
courts.
said that isn't the argument from the left that if we left the ECHR, I've heard this a million times, we'll just be like Russia and Belarus, whereas the rest of the world just gets on with it and ignores
of course,
it.
as if, you know, America and Canada and Australia and New Zealand and so on rely on being members of the ECHR for their reputations in the world. Complete nonsense. But I do think it's very important that we leave. We are a country of laws. We want to be able to abide by the law, and we want that law to be set in our own parliament, by our own members of parliament, and ultimately adjudicated by British judges in our own courts. Look, if Reform is lucky enough to win the next general election, look, Reform members of parliament are going to be very cohesive. They will know exactly what the score is, that we have to pass this, that this is the most important mission of a Reform government, to stop those boats. And so, you know, I'm very confident that we will do it. And it won't be the only thing we're going to do either. I mean, Nigel has been clear on that there's not going to be any pussyfooting around on this issue. If we need to, you know, we'll put the Navy in the channel and turn back the boats. We'll do whatever it takes, and the boats will stop under a Reform government.
Final question, Dave. When Labour came to power, they had a completely different manifesto to what they were elected on. Do you think government should be legally held accountable for their policies, Robert Jenrick?
Well, they should keep their word, shouldn't they? Whether or not, you know, it's legally binding or not, I think that's probably a bit unworkable, because sometimes circumstances do change. But the story of this country in my adult lifetime has been a succession of prime ministers coming in and not keeping their word.
Yep.
Tory and Labour. That is why people talk about the uni party, the sense that you voted an election, nothing seems to change, promises are constantly broken. That is why people are so angry and frustrated at politics, and that has to change. That has to change. And I fear that we're about to see, you know, the next in that long line of politicians.
I know he's waiting me, but I've got to do one more from Zarina. Can you ask Robert Jenrick, who I wanted to ask for a long time this, can he see a moment where he might return to his former party? It does happen that MPs do switch back and forth, presumably because their career development trumps any belief.
Well, Winston Churchill, I think, did that, didn't he? But no, I'm very happy with the decision I made to join Reform.
Really
other
good.
Other than getting married to my wife, it's the best decision I've ever made.
Listen, last week at a thing that we were at together, the day that Richard Tice had been elected the sexiest male politician, Mrs. Jenrick wasn't happy at all, was she? My husband is the... And then Jenrick went to me, I came second last year, you know.
Where were you, Jeremy?
Well, do you want to... Should I tell him my story? You'll love this. This is a well-known story. When I was doing my old show years ago, my agent phoned me up and said, I've got some news, you better sit down. GQ magazine have done a poll for the most hated person in the world, and Pol Pot came 5th, Adolf Hitler came 4th, Saddam Hussein came 3rd, I came 2nd, and Osama bin Laden came 1st. And when they killed Osama bin Laden, I won it posthumously. So you can shove your best-looking MP up where the sun don't shine. Most hated man in the world at one point. Great, isn't it? RJ, Robert Jenrick, thank you very much indeed. Great to have you on. He'll be back very soon. 25 to 9, you've been taught breakfast.
Was never an end point, right? Yeah. The establishment didn't want to put in place the mechanisms for accountability for our own domestic politicians to be answerable to the electorate. And in fact, that's what the EU's all about, ring-fencing decisions away from those pesky oiks who are the voters. And what we did with Brexit was say, we pesky oiks have got the chance to actually, guess what, hold you to account if you make a mess. Now, I say that with some irony because I'm in the House of Lords. I get all that. But
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Thank you to Robert Jenrick. 22 minutes to 9 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Talk, of course, the home of common sense. What are you waking up to? Donald Trump has said that Andy Burnham is extremely liberal as a mayor of a town, and if he doesn't drill for North Sea oil, he'll be as bad as Starmer. It's a terrible impression. Andy Burnham is the name on everybody's lips to be the next Prime Minister, and all these MPs are running around in the Labour Party trying to, you know, sidle up to him and get the jobs that are on offer. It's fantastic. There was a picture of Starmer yesterday getting consolation hugs hugs at his last ever G7 summit. Oh dear, how sad, never mind. Yesterday was the hottest June day on record, 36.1 degrees C. Caterham in Surrey, it's going to be even warmer today, which is great. But the main news story of the day for me, I'm just hysterical, is Lara Bird. I've got to repeat this very quickly. Lara Bird, because it's brilliant, is the new SNP MP for Arbroath, and she went to the Commons on Monday, same day as Andy Burnham, to be sworn in. There's a bit of attitude, to be honest, like, I don't want to be here, like, whatever. It reminded me of a teenager. And when asked to swear allegiance to the king, sort of had her fingers crossed like kids do when they're lying, which sort of picked up and generated a lot of interest online. And, of course, then people started digging. Turns out that Lara Bird isn't called Lara Bird. She's called Pyla Lara Bird -Leakey. So she's got a double name. She went to a private school in the middle of England, and then we've discovered some footage of her sounding completely different from the Scottish woman that she says she's. Now, she says, to be fair to her, she's half English and half Scottish, so she can presumably turn it on. This is Lara Bird speaking English, supporting Palestine, and then Lara Bird, the Scottish MP. Make your own mind up, peeps.
Recognition of their state, a state that already exists, a state that has existed for longer than the state of Israel has, for many, many, many generations, for the UK government to completely undermine the humanity of those people, of the Palestinian people.
This oath only so that I can serve the people of Arbroath and Broughty Ferry. My first allegiance is, and always will be, the sovereign people of Scotland. I do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles.
Morning, Pete.
Okay, I'm in Parliament now. I'm going to start talking rather differently what I do when I'm back home, cooking up that haggis and a clooty dumpling. I know, Jeremy, if you come into Parliament, I can make your feet feel a bit better, man. You can sit there and you can have a wee dram of whiskey while I'm sitting there spraying more rubbish on your feet and telling you how I'm not really English, I'm Scottish through and through.
Jack... Sounded almost like Jack Elsom's looking very serious. You for tonight, Doubtfire, dear. I specialise in the education and development of children, dear. Mr. Doubtfire, he was a solid man, he was. Do you know the Guinness took Mr... Do you know... Yeah, I'm sorry, I've been doing it for years, Jack Elsom. The great Mrs. Doubtfire. Were you married? Oh, yes, dear. Me and Mr. Doubtfire were married for 30 years, dear. Did he die? Oh, yes, dear. The drink got him. Was he an alcoholic? No, he was hit by a Guinness truck on a Wednesday afternoon, dear. Anyway, good morning, Jack Elsom. How are you?
Hot, very, very, very hot.
I know you're hot.
I've just come back from a run, and I'm drenched in sweat and incredibly red. I think I need to go for another shower before I go into work. But yeah,
oh, mate, did you say you've been for a run?
I went for a run at 6:30 this morning, thinking it would be quite cool, but actually it was anything but. It was still incredibly, incredibly hot, and I think it was quite stupid actually to do it.
What is wrong with British people? Being lucky to have been brought up in the tropics for a time, you don't do that when there's a heat wave, you idiot.
I'll tell you what as well, I mean, I probably work in the worst building in the world in terms of heat waves, because Parliament is literally a greenhouse, and when you work in there, it's like working in Kew Gardens, because it's single glazing, there's glass all around you, there's no air conditioning, we have one rickety fan, which basically is clapped out on its last legs. So it's really quite unpleasant in there at the moment. But you have to wear a suit because of time-honoured tradition. Although I'll tell you what, Jeremy, here's an exclusive for you, if you want. Yesterday, for the first time I think ever, the Speaker of the House of Commons granted journalists who will go to the press gallery to watch PMQs to take off their jacket and ties, because usually you have to wear a jacket if you're in the press gallery, but because it was so hot and we're sort of in the gods in the chamber, so heat rises and it gets incredibly hot up there, he actually managed to relax the rules and we could take off our jackets. So there we go, modern.
Well, you see, the thing is, you wanted the job, so deal with it and stop complaining. Can I ask you, while we're on the Commons?
Yeah.
Lara Bird, this is an extraordinary story. I know you were laughing at the guy doing an impression, but here's a woman who turns out to be actually a double-barrel girl from a middle-class private school in the middle of England who seems to have two accents. And Isabel Oakeshott made a good point. The newspaper, then nobody's going to leave this alone now, are they?
We've seen it before in politics as well, where you know, people get parachuted into various constituencies and then try and, you know, adopt the language of the place which they're now representing. But I'm not sure I've ever seen an example as shameless and brazen as Lara Bird. You know, you watch those videos when she was talking about Palestine, it seemed that she was sort of, you know, parachuted out of a private school in the home counties, and now, you know, is adopting sort of the gruff growl of sort of the Scottish tone. Yeah, no, it's totally extraordinary, but also, you know, in an era where I think voters really prize authenticity, and in an era also where it's so easy just to check these things. Everyone's got a past on social media, which is pretty easy with a quick Google search to look up. I don't think how she thought, one, she could get away with it, and two, how it would help her anyway. You know, people want the real product. They don't want someone trying to fake it.
And I know we've been laughing about it since this sort of story developed this morning, and Kev started with it last night, and respect to him for that on Drive. But you're right. The British people, the silent majority that I talk about every single day, are sick to death, it seems, of politicians pulling the wool or not being genuine or not being authentic or not doing what they say they're going to do. This girl, to me, has made a huge mistake, and so have the SNP, because, as Isabel said, the Sunday papers, they're just going to dig and dig and dig now. And you can't behave like that. Let's talk about Parliament in general, the hothouse that it is for you. We haven't spoken for a couple of days, but absolutely extraordinary. This man who was not even an MP 12 days ago, despite the fact nominations haven't even opened, will be the next Prime Minister, and it's quite interesting seeing all the jockeying for position. It must be fun to watch that. Any idea? Do you have ideas on who might get what?
Well, as Boris Johnson famously said, when the herd moves, it moves. And these MPs are literally falling over themselves to get a selfie with Andy Burnham, to kiss the ring, and to almost prostrate themselves in front of him. You know, it is actually quite an embarrassing spectacle to watch how, you know, yesterday they cheered Keir Starmer to the rafters, despite the fact that, as Kemi Badenoch said, you know, they stuck the knife in his back 400 times, as she said. And I think that is true. And what you're seeing now, clearly, is this massive jockeying for positions under the Starmer, under the inevitable Burnham.
We're going to have to get used to this, aren't we? We've spent 2 years, Benny's gone, and now we're going to have Burnham. Do you know, people ringing me this morning calling him Burnham, like Vermin already. Burnham hasn't even been elected yet.
Yeah, we can't go on to nicknames just yet. I think that, obviously, the most crucial job which he can appoint is the chancellor.
Yeah.
Because the economy is currently on its knees. We haven't got any meaningful growth in this country. Taxes are at a record high. We haven't got serious drilling in the North Sea, and spending is out of control, as is the welfare budget. And so who he appoints as that chancellor is going to be crucial to the direction of his government. Now, we have, as we understand it, a few names in the mix. Ed Miliband, clearly, would be the darling of the Labour members, but probably pretty loathed by business. You see him as pretty left-wing. But also what's interesting, Jeremy, is the unions are almost tag-teaming to try and torpedo Miliband's chances of going into number 11. Why? Because they know that jobs, crucial jobs in the North Sea, would be decimated even further.
Look, the Tories won Aberdeen. The Tories won Aberdeen, and Donald Trump said overnight, you know, Aberdeen was the centre for oil, and he made the point, which I thought was great, which was that, you know, we don't drill, it's liquid gold, yet Norway is, and we're buying it off for more money. It's quite interesting. We've had several people on this. Dan Hodges yesterday, Poppy Coburn today, thought that he might buy Rachel Reeves off with the job as Foreign Secretary, which frightens me. I'll tell you what I think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. I think he'll give Miliband Foreign Secretary. I agree with Steve Baker, to get him out of the country and away from energy. I genuinely do. Big job. Go and travel, quite the most important job. Foreign Secretary, nowhere near any decision-making. You can go and do one. I think Yvette Cooper might well. Her or Streeting, I think, will unfortunately get chances. But I could be totally wrong. He doesn't think Shabana Mahmood will stay. I do. But Burnham is already, and he hasn't even been elected, going to face what so many prime ministers have. And this is true, Jack, because we don't have conviction politicians. They're trying to play everybody and make everybody happy and all that. Gone are the days where a politician would go, I got the mandate, this is what I'm doing. If you don't like it, you can do one. Because we don't have that anymore. We need that, but we don't have that anymore. We don't.
You know what? I think this is Burnham's biggest flaw. Clearly, he's got many more pros than Keir Starmer. He's clearly way more charismatic than Keir Starmer, although obviously it's a pretty low bar to begin with. But I think that the problem with that is that, and this whole sort of cheeky chappy, you know, man of the people routine, is that there's a danger that he becomes far too much of a people pleaser. And in government, the one thing you cannot be is a people pleaser. You cannot promise the world to all sides, because eventually you come unstuck. And we saw that even in the campaign for Makerfield, where the one day he was saying he was going to spend £10 billion compensating the WASPy women, clearly saw the numbers and thought, actually, I can't do that. And so then you end up, you know, annoying all sides. And
he reminds me, Sarah Vine said something yesterday in the Mail that I thought was spot on. She said that he reminds her of the Labour equivalent of Boris Johnson. I was so Boris Johnson, and I heard all of you. You said it to me. Everybody said to me, no, Jez, that's great. People will follow, but it's inside, it's detail, it's vacuous, I think Sarah might be right that Andy Burnham probably is that people pleaser, probably will take the Labour Party. But I said something earlier, and I'll say it to you. Has he got the balls, the political capital, the credit in the bank to stand in front of his 400 MPs and go, let me tell you something, unless we drill and unless we cut the benefits bill, not only will we not win the next election, this party could be extinct. So I'm your boss, I'm your last chance. You're not going to get rid of me for 3 years, so that's what we're going to do. Has he got the political capital or the courage to do that, Jack?
Well, this is going to be the question, because it is so easy to campaign and win a by-election like this when you can appeal to, you know, when you can sort of, you know, you campaign in poetry, don't you, and you govern in prose, and it is so much more difficult to govern than it is to campaign, because you're right, Boris Johnson was the same. You had this boosterish sense of charisma, you're a go-getter, you're gung-ho, it's fantastic, and actually people rally to your cause. In government, many things you have to do are incredibly unpopular, but actually sometimes you need to give the country their medicine, and yes, you might get kicks and shouts and screams from your backbenchers, from your MPs, but actually the country will thank you for it in the long term if they can see you doing well. Where Starmer ended up going badly was when he decided to stop trying to go after Middle England, the people that put him into government in the first place, and actually went laser focused on the narrow interests of the parliamentary party and of the members. You know, something like immigration, something like two-child benefit cap was a stellar example of that, something like the European Union. And that is the danger with Andy Burnham. He's going to have to govern in the interests of ordinary voters rather than the interests of Labour members and MPs. Because
and the
I'll
next...
tell you what,
go on.
I was just going to say, you're in a hiding to nothing if you just go for Labour members and MPs, because they'll be happy for a bit, but then they'll start to see their poll share go down. Then just final quick question, bless your heart, and we really appreciate you being on. If he did drill, if he did cut the benefits bill, even one of those two, does that spell the end for reform? Well, I don't know. I mean, clearly, you know, those two are big things in terms of their policy platform. Whether Andy Burnham will be brave enough to do it, I hope so. Many people will hope so. Listen, you know, Nigel Farage, again, probably goes toe-to-toe with him in terms of the charisma side of things. Nigel Farage probably a better orator than Andy Burnham, although Andy Burnham shows signs that he's pretty good at that as well. It's going to be an interesting election, isn't it? Certainly is. Don't go out running today, mate. It's 40 degrees. We love having you on, and look after yourself. Thank you for looking after me the other night. I'm not going into any more detail than that. Talk Breakfast, Steve, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Steve from Manchester. In regards to air conditioning, I think I know a little bit about it because I am an air conditioning engineer. What these councillors are saying about the release too much CO2 is absolute BS. Air conditioning units do not release CO2 at all. What they're going on about is one of the gas regulations that gives you, if the unit leaks gas into the atmosphere, it creates what is known as an equivalent CO2 tons per metre squared. I think it is something like that. These people are just idiots. They just don't want you to have air conditioning because they know that their stupid net zero grid can't cope if everybody went out and bought one. Anyway, great show, mate. Keep up the good work. See you later.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 4 minutes to 9 o'clock. Let's get some sport quickly. Big M, push the button.
In 90 seconds, from The Sun.
Very good morning to Simon Gollins from The Sun. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Should we... Scotland done, is that it? 3-0 loss to Brazil last night, the back of winning against Haiti, but losing against Morocco. Are they out?
They're clinging on at the moment. I mean, they might sneak through as one of those 8 third best placed teams, but I think it's going to be difficult given that goal difference for them isn't great, sadly.
It's such a shame, actually, that I was watching that Morocco game, and of course it was instantaneous, that first goal. It was just a shame. Let's talk England. Panama, England, Saturday at 10 p.m. on the back of the brilliant Sun Sport today. New jerseys. Tuchel to ring changes at MetLife over fatigue fears. They must be tired. They played 2 games. They get 300 grand a week. They must be knackered.
I mean, it's hotter here than over there.
Yeah,
so,
stop whinging. It's bloody roasting here.
Yeah, I think Tuchel will make changes. I mean, obviously Panama are out, and England basically playing for top spot in the group, but in a good position. And I think, yeah, someone like Declan Rice will probably be on the bench and a few changes for the weekend's game.
Fantastic. And in just the bigger picture of the World Cup, what do you make of it so far? Have you been impressed? There's been people saying there aren't enough seats, that it's too hot, this, that and the other. Has it been a spectacle or what?
I think it has been probably more impressive than we thought. I think a lot of the big players have turned up, which helps. I mean, we know Americans love those big personalities, Haaland scoring, Ronaldo, Messi. So I think it's been good. But I think the knockouts is where we'll really see it come to life. And
what about the view of... I was talking to my father-in-law again last night, he's a massive football fan. He thinks that the expansion to 48 teams, 20 of which aren't any good, I probably include England in that, he thinks that that's not a great thing. What are your thoughts, pal?
I think it does dilute the quality. I think the fact that you look at someone like Scotland, we're talking about there, you know, you can come third in your group and you're going to get through, and you start with 48 teams and we're only cutting it to 32. I just think you lose a bit of that jeopardy, and the quality does dilute when you do that.
Good man. Listen, are England going to win the World Cup?
I would love to say yes, but I'd then be lying to you, so I don't think so. I think France are going to win it, sadly.
Simon Collins, you're an absolute master. Thank you. The Sun Sport, literally brilliant coverage, day in, day out of the World Cup 2026. And don't forget our sister station, talkSport, live and exclusive coverage at every single one of the games. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant commentary. The Sports Bar, by the way, with O'Hara and Cundy is hysterical at 10 o'clock at night. Genuinely hand on heart. This is Jeremy Kyle, live and exclusive across the UK. Talk Breakfast is on. We kick off the next hour in the morning sunshine. I bet he's got an umbrella. The legend that is Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg, who last week introduced me to his mother. I know. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. News at 9 is next.
Never an end point, right? Yeah. The establishment didn't want to put in place the mechanisms for accountability for our own domestic politicians to be answerable to the electorate. And in fact, that's what the EU's all about. Ring-fencing decisions away from those pesky oiks who are the voters. And what we did with Brexit was say, we pesky oiks have got the chance to actually, guess what, hold you to account if you make a mess. Now, I say that with some irony because I'm in the House of Lords. I get all that. But
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk. Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome out, welcome along. Just gone 9 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Jeremy Curl on Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense and the place where you come with your views on the day's news. As ever, if you want to be part of it, 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Andy Burnham is the name, it seems, on every politician's lips. 12 days ago, he wasn't even an MP. 12 days later, the Labour Party is falling over itself to try and get a position in his apparent new government because nobody else has come forward. Let me just explain. We haven't even had nominations open yet, let alone close, and Andy Burnham will be the next Prime Minister. Starmer's gone off in a huff. Everybody's positioning themselves. And last night, a reporter from England was brave enough to ask Donald Trump what he made of Andy Burnham. Have a watch, have a listen, it's brilliant.
You know about who?
The new incoming Prime Minister, Andy Burnham.
I don't know anything. I see that he was, I guess, the mayor of a town. I hear he's extremely liberal. Extremely. So that means he probably won't open up the North Sea. You know, I gave Keir Starmer some pretty good advice. I said, open up the North Sea. Go to Aberdeen, which was the hottest city in the whole continent. It was the oil city. It was the oil of Europe, and they closed everything. It was terrible. I saw it before my eyes, and I couldn't believe it. The North Sea is loaded. I have had every oil company come to see me. Sir, could you give us access to the UK? We would do anything to drill in the North Sea. And they haven't even found what's there. The amazing thing is they buy their oil from Norway, which gets the oil from the North Sea. Think of it. And they pay a big premium. Norway's got now $2 trillion in the bank, and UK is dying.
Well, there you go. The UK is dying 9:05. We've tried to have this man on many times, and usually the connection doesn't work, but in blazing heat, proving that he'll never take his jacket and tie off. Good morning, Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Mr. Kyle. What a pleasure to join you this morning.
Lovely meeting your mother the other day. I thought she was your sister.
Well, most people do, and she very much enjoyed meeting you too. She thought you had a lot of very sensible things to say about the state of the nation. So I think it was a meeting of minds.
Ah, Jacob. My friend, I wanted to start with Trump, who gets accused of many things, and some are true. But he was absolutely spot on there about North Sea oil, and it is a mystery to me. I've never been in your position in Parliament or in power, but in basic layman's terms, Jacob, here's a country that is paying billions of pounds every month in interest on a debt it cannot afford to service, and yet under or just off our nation, owned by us, is, in the terms of Donald Trump, liquid gold. So farcical is the situation that not only through to environmental issues or whatever it is do we not drill, we allow other countries to drill and then we pay them a high tariff to actually buy that oil and gas. Is it not true to say that the reason this country in terms of growth is on its backside is because we have the highest energy costs in the land? And it seems that this government will do nothing about it. Will Andy Burnham do something about it, do you think, Jacob?
I very much doubt it. I completely agree with your analysis. I was briefly Energy Secretary and tried to get more licences going in the North Sea in that period, and some of those have come through. We are sitting not just with the North Sea but with shale gas on enormous quantities of fossil fuels which we could use to make the country rich. And it would probably have an effect on the international price because the quantities are so great. But even if it didn't change the international price, that would be money earned by the UK economy. And you're absolutely spot on. Our poor economic performance over the last decade or two is to do with high energy prices. The mad net zero policies have made us uncompetitive. In 2000, electricity was about the same price in England as it is in the United States. It's now 4 times the average price of the United States. That's knocked manufacturing industry for 6, but it's devastating for things like data centres, which require huge quantities of electricity. So we're cutting ourselves out of the next generation of technology as well.
And the point that I don't get, I mean, unless it's the ideology dying on the altar of the ideology of net zero, and I can't even have a conversation with Miliband because it doesn't make any sense to me. You're right about the entire economy depends on low energy. Andy Burnham, do you think... So we've had 400 Labour MPs who have looked at the local elections, they've looked at the results, their own careers, and thought, we're screwed under Sir Keir Starmer. We're going to parachute somebody who's not even an MP because we believe, despite the fact he lost to Jeremy Corbyn, that he is indeed the Messiah. He is going to have a honeymoon period, Jacob. He's going to have a degree of goodwill. Does he have what it takes to stand in front of those MPs and say, I know you're not going to like it, but to save this party and take on reform, I'm going to drill in the North Sea and I'm going to attack the benefits bill. Do you think he's got it in him to do that, Jacob Rees-Mogg?
It's not impossible, but Andy Burnham has been a Blairite, a Brownite, a Corbynista. He moves his position to suit the political winds. So if he thinks the political wind is against net zero, then I think there's a chance he could do that. He'll find it much harder to cut welfare because the backbench Labour MPs are so committed to welfare. We'll get an idea of this in his first cabinet. If Miliband is moved from energy and climate change, then that will be a sign that things may be changing and we won't have a zealot in that role. If Miliband stays there or is promoted to be chancellor, then I think it's extremely unlikely that we'll see what you're proposing.
What do you make of, I mean, they're all running around, aren't they, trying to position themselves. Who do you believe, the top jobs, who do you believe will be chancellor, Jacob?
Well, I would have thought that Wes Streeting would have asked for that in return for backing Burnham. and therefore he must be quite likely, though other people are saying it could be John Healey, and that his resignation may not have been as entirely disinterested as it appeared at one point. I doubt that's fair, but you never know with these things.
Also, Yvette Cooper's an interesting one to me. Apparently she told Starmer to go. Mahmood has been criticised, but a lot of people this morning are saying that the way to deal with Miliband, who's obviously been instrumental to this coup because he provided SPADs, etc., would be to make him Foreign Secretary, get him out of the Energy Department, give him one of the biggest state offices here and disappear off on lots of foreign junkets. That might be a way of dealing with him, but it's going to be utterly fascinating. I wanted to bring you on to another member of the cabinet. I thought Kemi Badenoch's critique of the cabinet yesterday was absolutely brilliant. I'm going to play you a quick clip of her taking on Bridget Phillipson, and the look on Phillipson's face was classic television. Have a watch, Jacob.
Hands up if you think the Education Secretary is doing a good job. Even she doesn't think she's doing a good job, Mr. Speaker. Even she doesn't think she's doing a good job. Just, someone did. Just for those who raised their hands, the two people who raised their hands, yesterday a poll found that 0% of teachers think the Education Secretary is doing a good job. 0%. She taxed private schools to pay for more teachers, but the number of teachers has gone down. It turns out appointing a spiteful class warrior as Education Secretary was a disaster.
Jacob, I'm sure as the Leader of the House you've seen numerous things over the years. A couple of comments about this. It ended up apparently with an enraged Phillipson and an enraged Liz Kendall attacking Badenoch somewhere in the House of Commons, to which she said, "I will never stop attacking you because of what you are doing to our kids." Do you think that she went too far, Kemi Badenoch, or do you think she was spot on, Jacob?
I think she was spot on. That's the point of the House of Commons and Prime Minister's questions, is to discuss the important issues of the day forcefully because they matter. And Bridget Phillipson is damaging the education of children. And what she did to private schools, and I confess I've been affected by that, turned out to be utter nonsense. Yep. It hasn't provided the extra money for new teachers because schools have closed and parents have taken their children out of schools. It was a vicious piece of class warfare, as Kemi Badenoch rightly exposed. And we haven't got these new teachers. So I'm afraid Bridget Phillipson's period as Education Secretary, which God willing is coming to a close with a new Labour leader, has been bad for children, bad for education, bad for the future of the country.
And do you know, you make a really good point, and I want to say it on the show, Jacob. We've talked lots. You said it's a vicious case of class warfare. What annoyed me about it, and my kids, I was lucky enough to send my kids to private school, so it affected me as well. It's so disrespectful. I remember my parents, they didn't have a lot of money, but they made sacrifices to send me and my brother to private school, 60% of their income. That was their choice. There are many people in this country who have given everything to privately educate their kids and have been utterly done over by what this government does. And I thought it was really interesting that yesterday Phillipson and Kendall lost it when Badenoch actually had the courage to say, "You're spiteful class warriors," because if you say that to a lefty, they can't handle it at all, can they?
No, I'm surprised at Liz Kendall, who I've always thought is a very civilised Labour MP and very calm and measured. I'm not surprised at all about Bridget Phillipson being cross, because people are often crossest about the criticisms that are the most accurate.
A couple of questions. I'm sure you've heard the story of Lara Bird, haven't you?
Lara Bird? You're going to have to tell me the story of Lara Bird.
Right, Jacob, I know you're hot and you've got your jacket on, but I'm going to educate you now. You're going to love this. Lara Bird on Monday walked into the House of Commons as the new MP for Arbroath. She had a lot of attitude and held up her fingers as if she wasn't telling the truth and didn't really respect the King, and that was picked up online. But she was very Scottish, whereupon several journalists did some work and they discovered that Lara Bird not only doesn't have a Scottish accent, because she's a middle-class, privately educated schoolgirl from the middle of England, she's actually got two voices, and she's called Pilar Lara Bird Leakey, which is double-barrelled like Rees-Mogg, so she's not all that she turns out to be. But I'm going to make your morning. You can see clips of both. This is her speaking English and then with a Scottish accent. Enjoy, Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg.
It's clearly also not about natural resources, because Greenland have made it clear that if the US want to mine for their natural resources, they can. I do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles, his heirs and successors, according to the law, so help me God.
Jacob, you were the leader of the House. That doesn't look great, does it?
It's very funny. Perhaps we should carry out the rest of the interview in mock Scotch accents in her honour.
All right, let's do it then. So Jacob, what did you make of her accent then?
I think there's a moose loose about this house. That's the best I can do.
Is that the best you can do, man? But it's just the hypocrisy. To have obviously been... She was talking about Palestine. I mean, to have been sort of laid in there and put in there. I mean, honestly, at a time when people's sort of respect and belief in politicians is at an all-time low, it looks like a very, very bad move.
It does, doesn't it? And the thing that's worst for politicians isn't criticism, isn't losing an argument or anything of that kind, it's ridicule. Yeah. And I'm afraid this will finish her political career. She will always be thought of as utterly ridiculous. And it serves her right. I had seen the thing about her having her fingers crossed when taking the oath. That was just childish and rude not just to the King, but to the constitution under which we operate and which being elected to Parliament is part of. So I think if you're silly and trivial in that way, you rather deserve to get caught out. But I'm afraid everyone will now remember her as the fake Scottish accent lady.
It's
Even if, like me, they can't remember her name.
Poppy Coburn said to me earlier, and I thought she was absolutely spot on, she'd never have agreed with anything that Sinn Féin stood or believed in, but when they won their seats, they didn't take their seats. If you're Lara Bird, or should I say Pyla Lara Bird Leakey, you're coming down to London to get your big salary and all the benefits that come with being an MP, and yet you're laughing at the institution you're part of. And I agree with you. I think that's disrespectful. Couple of things as the ex-leader of the House. Jack Elson was telling me that yesterday, for the first time in history, I'd love your take on this, the Speaker of the House of Commons allowed all the hacks, because, of course, the House of Commons has no air conditioning, it was roasting, to take their jackets and ties off, Rees-Mogg. You'd never do that, would you?
Well, there is air conditioning in the House of Commons. Oh. It's quite well air-conditioned. It may have been the air conditioning wasn't working or that it got too hot for the air conditioning. Look, I wouldn't take my coat off, but I do appreciate it has been a little warm over the last couple of days, so perhaps one should be gentle, and the press gallery isn't the pavilion at Lord's.
Do you always wear a suit and tie, even in a heatwave, Jacob?
Look at me now. Of course, yes.
Right, you rather stole my thunder earlier, but I'm going to tell you my joke of the morning, because I love having you on a Blairite, a Brownite and a Corbynista get into a taxi, and the taxi driver says, "Where do you want to go, Mr Burnham?"
Very good, yes. Now, I must ask before I go, how do you think your cousin Peter Kyle's going to do in the reshuffle?
Can you stop? He told his mother, he said, "This is Jeremy Kyle, whose cousin is the business..." Listen, I am nothing to do with Peter Kyle. Honestly, Rees-Mogg, I'll start suing you for slander soon, man. Get off. We love having you on. Thank you, my friend, the amazing Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. He seems to be putting around a rumour that I'm related to Peter Kyle, which patently I'm not. 0344 499 1000. Somebody's looking at me through the glass. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Ian, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Ian from Home Firth. That leaky bird from SNP's doing a full-on Steve McLaren. It's quite unbelievable. Anyway, politics, popcorn and everything else, it's all going off. It's going to carry on going off and all, because vermin's no good either. Ta-ra, folks. Enjoy the sunshine. It's summer, you know.
Britain has in some respects been the world's most successful country. It's given us the world's common language, the mother of parliaments, the Industrial Revolution, the emancipation of minorities, and yet I think there has been this besetting spirit of defeatism and declinism. People like Margaret Thatcher and Tony Blair were exceptions to this. Just contrast, within 48 hours of the invasion of the Falklands, the Royal Navy could assemble some 40 ships to sail to the South Atlantic. Now it takes 2 weeks to deploy a single destroyer to...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9:20. Talk Breakfast is on. I want to go quickly, if I can, to the British Chambers of Commerce Global Annual Conference 2026. Rachel Reeves is saying, I was a very good chance. Let's have a listen.
Chancellor, in a few weeks' time, will have a better economy that is growing more strongly, that is more secure, that is more stable than the economy that I inherited just 2 years ago.
Some would say, just finally on growth, some would say that, you know, untapping the North Sea would be a way of boosting growth. Is that something that you think is correct?
I've been very clear that I think that the North Sea is a crucial asset for the UK and that oil and gas will be an important part of our energy mix for years to come. And I'm very keen to make sure that we use that resource to ensure our energy security, and there are decisions to be made shortly on both Rosebank and Jackdaw. Those are quasi-judicial decisions.
Sorry, can you just cut her a minute? Sorry, I don't understand, unless I'm obviously not as talented as other people, and I understand that. This is a woman who's just sat at the British Chambers of Commerce Global Annual Conference 2026 and said she understands that business growth and success is down to low energy prices and that could be improved dramatically by drilling in the North Sea. She sees it, in her own words, as the most important asset going forward. Then why the bloody hell didn't she and Starmer see it as the most useful asset in the last 2 years and stop giving out licences, in fact allow anything to be that we did the opposite under crazy Ed Miliband? That, ladies and gentlemen, is the Chancellor of the Exchequer positioning herself for the next job, which patently tells me, does it say that Andy Burnham is going to drill? What it does say is that she disagreed almost entirely with Starmer, or is she just saying that because Starmer's no longer the Prime Minister? This is what happens, isn't it? This is why people become cynical about politicians in their entirety, because they say things just for a reaction. This is an interesting thing. I mean, we got some breaking news. A new YouGov poll has just come out. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the bounce I told you about. Britons tend to believe that Burnham will be a better Prime Minister, as it stands, hasn't even got the nomination yet, than any major party leader. Andy Burnham would be better than Farage by 43 to 23. In a head-to-head against Kemi, Burnham, Britons are more divided, favouring Burnham 32 to 28. As it stands, a man who 12 days ago was not even an MP is about to be anointed as the Labour leader and thus the Prime Minister. Would in a poll beat Nigel Farage hands down and would beat Kemi Badenoch. That is the power, I guess, of the bounce, and we talked about it, and it will happen. Andy Burnham will take over from Keir Starmer. It was really interesting earlier, talking to Isabel Oakeshott. She made the point. If Andy Burnham's got the courage to drill in the North Sea, if Andy Burnham's got the courage to take on the benefits bill, if Andy Burnham has got the political intelligence to do something about defence spending, he will neuter, great word, he will neuter a lot of reform and a lot of Tory policy. Has he got the political capital? Has he got, I don't know, the nous, the antennae to do it? Be really, really interesting to see. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. I want to go back to this appalling story on the front of course, the Daily Mail today. We're now running the different thing, but NHS bosses ignored women's warnings as 500 mothers and babies died or were harmed at toxic hospital trusts. This is the story of it's Nottinghamshire, basically. It was a damning report. It was the Nottingham University Hospital NHS Trust, where bosses found a culture of bullying, where speaking up was dangerous, and bosses' responses were shaped by self-protection rather than patient safety. And when families did complain, my friends, they were met with intimidating male-dominated panels who were dismissive of their media. 2,500 cases, 520 instances of mothers and babies who suffered outrageously. It's an absolutely outrageous story. Britain's worst maternity scandal. We'll say a very good morning to the former president of the Royal College of Midwives and an author of the book Do Birth, Caroline Flint. A very good morning. Welcome to Talk Breakfast. How are you?
Thank you very much. Well, I'm fine, thank you. But really, really, really sad at this Donna Ockerden's investigation. It's really awful, awful.
Does it? And it sounds it is. That's the gentleman, Ockenden, who's put this together. I mean, it's an extraordinarily, appallingly shocking story. 500 women's warnings, mothers and babies died or were harmed at this toxic hospital trust. And government delays mean that more mothers and babies will die, warns Ockenden. When we sit here in our offices moaning about how hot it is outside or our train's going to be late, on a serious note, Caroline, how in the name of God have we failed these women and these children so drastically?
Well, it's been happening over the years, I have to say. And because nobody ever listens, midwives have really been speaking up. Midwives are there's so few midwives now because the working conditions are so ghastly. Midwives have left in droves. So you've got doctors taking over completely. Now, doctors are brilliant and wonderful, but they don't know about childbirth, and they have over-medicalised it so much that virtually every woman is induced, nearly every woman has a caesarean. There is no natural birth at all. And it hasn't made it safer. By doctors being really in charge of everything, it has not made things better.
Let me ask you, there's so much I want to ask you. My last two children were caesarean because Mrs K couldn't do the natural birth, and that was just a physical thing. But you implied in what you just said there that doctors have taken over. First question is why, and they would prefer caesareans or different types of birth. What, through speed? What are we saying in those two?
Because doctors don't do natural births. Doctors do caesareans.
Is the increasingly not natural birth approach, is that? Let me try and get this right. Is it money-based? Is it attitude-based? Has the world changed? I mean, in one hospital that my wife gave birth, and I'm being completely honest, you could walk down, well, you could be pushed down the corridor at the end of giving birth, the baby could go to the left and you could go to the right, and you could have, you know, surgery done to make yourself look better. Literally, genuinely, hand on heart. I'm being serious. It shocked me completely.
Yes, but it is the medicalisation of childbirth. See, doctors have taken over. They've been taking it over since the 1960s. The Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists have said over and over again, we need more obstetricians, more obstetricians, more obstetricians. We now have so many obstetricians that it is completely ridiculous. I know that there are shortages in medicine, but not in obstetrics. There are too many obstetricians, and because that means midwives have no role. Midwives are leaving, so you have fewer and fewer and fewer midwives.
But the specific charges in Nottingham, the Nottinghamshire University Hospital, 2,500 cases, 520 either deaths or instances of injury. Just from your point of view, former president of the Royal College of Midwives, and I have the greatest of respect for midwives, genuinely. I've been through it 6 times. They're unbelievable. I mean, you can be overstretched or doctors can have taken over, but this is massive incompetence on an industrial scale without being disrespectful, isn't it?
It's massive incompetence, but it's also an attitude. It is you and me, the midwife and the doctor, against the patient. You see, in childbirth, it is the relationship between the midwife and the mother that ensures safety. And with your wife, if she went privately, it was her relationship with her obstetrician. You have to have a relationship.
And you're saying in the NHS, for whatever reasons, be it money or be it how the systems are run, that it's too stretched, it's too quick, you don't have that relationship, you're not heard in terms of the choices you want. Is that what you're saying, Caroline?
It's like a conveyor belt. It's a factory system. Yes, that's what I'm saying. There needs to be an opportunity for midwives to get to know women so that they have the woman's back.
Are you going to tell me that means there's not enough money given to the NHS or that it's not spent wisely enough?
Well, it's certainly not spent wisely. Huge amounts of money are spent on electronic fetal monitoring, which we know does not give any improvements. Huge amounts of money is spent on ultrasound scanning, which we know has never been shown to make any improvements at all. I mean, it's shocking. The research is never looked at. We need childbirth to be... We need midwives out in the community. I mean, I know that sounds a bit like Call the Midwife.
No, but they used to. Now, you see, I'm old. You're going to laugh. I'm much older than you. I remember I've had more children than Boris Johnson. I remember the first couple, the midwife would come out. I'm being serious. I was born... all right, don't laugh, everybody through the grass. I was born in the front bedroom of my parents' first house.
Exactly.
And the old man sat on the wall outside. I'm telling my life story. This is absolutely true. Smoking a cigarette because he felt sick. She gave birth. 20 minutes later, I'm not even joking, came downstairs and made him a cup of tea. I mean, the world was a different place. I was born at home, man. That doesn't happen now.
Well, you see, I had all my children at home.
Yeah.
And Beethoven, Bach, Mozart, everybody was born at home.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were having that music on whilst you were giving birth then. I was slightly concerned about it. No, listen, I think... there are many things, I think, but my experience is our midwives and that relationship is absolutely essential. And you said something that really worried me at the beginning, Caroline. You said that this is almost a mirror to how much of this is going on across the country, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I have sent James Murray, the Minister of Health, a blueprint for the maternity services of the future. He has not even acknowledged that. I also sent it to Wes Streeting. He hasn't acknowledged it. You know, there are some good ideas around about maternity services, and it doesn't just consist of more monitoring and more staff. You've got to have something more than that.
You speak so much sense, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. The former president of the Royal College of Midwives. Thank you so much indeed, Caroline Flint, also the author of a book called Do Birth. She knows how it is. 0344 499 1000. Talk Breakfast is on. Morning, Mark.
Hi, Jeremy. Mark from Manchester. You're on about this bounce for Burnham. It all depends who you ask. If you stand in the middle of a Labour conference and ask if Burnham's going to give them a bounce, then they're going to all say, yeah. Stand in the Reform conference and ask the same question. I bet he doesn't get more than 1%. Have a good show.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. What is it? 25 to 10. Julia Hartley-Brewer here from 10 o'clock. Ian Collins from 1 and Kevin O'Sullivan from 4. 0344 499 1000. Really interesting to have Caroline Flint on. The arrogance of men who wouldn't listen. It's an appalling story about NHS bosses ignoring women's warnings at the Nottinghamshire University Hospital Trust. 500 mothers and babies died or were harmed at that toxic hospital trust. And the former head of the midwives said on this show just now, this is, I'm afraid, a mirror of what's happening across the UK. Good morning to Andy, who says, the interview between Jezza and Jacob Rees-Mogg is why live radio will never die. I laughed literally out loud when Jacob said, let's do it in Scottish accents. Jezza did a Scottish, and all he could come out with is, there's a moose loose about this hoose. Where would you think that Jacob Rees-Mogg would ever say that? Andy Burnham is the Mr. Benham Politics, changes his persona at a whim. Andrew from Salisbury. Good morning, Jezza. First of all, why is everyone giving Burnham the job already? Al Carnes is going to compete as well. I think he appears to be a lot better than Burnham for the country. Can we not wait until the closing date to crown Starmer 2.0? Probably not. Gerard, good morning. Jezza, great show as always. As usual, I hope you're sitting nice and cool in your recording studio. Well, I'm not going to get into a debate. It's OK-ish. So now good old Ed Miliband, or Millilamp, all right, wants to stop people having air conditioning in their houses. It's like living under a North Korean dictatorship. Just for this, I'm probably going to install another AC system in my bloody garage out of spite. All right, get you. 0344 499 1000. Now, I just want to take you back to a story that Samara Gill covered some months ago, how 7 NHS nurses took legal action over a biological male using their female changing room. The group, who became known as the Darlington 7, brought their case against County Durham and Darlington NHS Foundation Trust, you say that, after Rose Henderson, who identifies as a woman, was allowed to use female facilities. We are delighted to tell you that 2 of them are with us this morning, Annice Grundy and Lisa Lockley, and they've won £187,000 in damages because it's common bloody sense. Morning, ladies. How hot are you feeling? Are you hot?
Morning.
How hot is it, love?
Very hot.
Are you in Darlington?
Bishop Auckland at the minute.
Oh, bless you. Have you got not air conditioning on? No air.
Got a Dyson fan.
Oh, right. And any other fans that are also very good. Which one's Lisa? Put your hand up. Which one's Lisa?
Me.
Both of you, though, Lisa and East Gray. This was a story that captured any of us who believe in common sense. And I've had this debate long time with people who say to me, oh, you don't understand. No, I've got teenage girls. I don't want a man in a dress with a penis walking in and changing in front of her. What's wrong with that?
It's your dignity. It's so uncomfortable. You know, it's a very it's just a very vulnerable place to be in a changing room when you're taking your clothes off to find yourself with a man in there who doesn't even seem to be attempting to transition. It was quite a shock for everybody, I think.
In terms of you and Lisa as well, and I agree with you, Lisa, to me the common sense approach has always been, I don't want to get into a debate about who and what you want to be or whatever. Have a separate space. It's like that. Do you remember that story in Scotland about that guy who raped 2 women and then decided to Isla Bryson and change, you know, suddenly I'm a woman, literally put on a blonde wig and some leggings, and it's not even laughable, and walked into court and got put in an all-female prison. You want to look at the judge and go, sorry? He's a rapist. And, of course, if you say this, I've said this to women, you know, women's right campaigns say, you don't understand, they're not a danger, it's not fair, you're being unfair. But you're not being unfair to the women, Anise, as well.
Exactly. I mean, from day one, it was, you know, I was quite startled, walked in, turned round, and there's a man in his boxer shorts in front of me. We've never once said that Rose should have to use the male changing room. We just wanted a separate space for any trans colleagues or anybody who identified, anyone who felt uncomfortable. But that was, when it came to us, it didn't matter that we were made to feel uncomfortable.
So we were given a separate changing room. The transgender individual was left to use the female changing room, and we were actually put out of the female changing room, and we were given an old office. with a few lockers banged in. And during the court case, it turned out that they were supposed to get some fire safety procedures done to make that room fire safe, and they wouldn't spend the money on it, despite the fact that they spent over £600,000. Now it's more like 8,000 when you add on the costs that they've agreed to pay to
and
us.
It was going to cost about £9,000.
Yeah, it was going to be about £9,000.
Let me ask you a question, because I love this. You just talking sense, OK? It doesn't make sense to me. So when you, the 7 of you, stood up to Darlington, you know, you stood up to the County Durham and Darlington NHS Foundation Trust, did you lose your jobs? Were you ostracised? How were you treated?
Well, we're both still working for the Trust. We're all still working for the Trust.
How do they treat you? Because you're taking damages off them. What's their response, or is that just forgiven and forgotten? Sorry, we wasted 200 grand being stupid.
We're waiting to see what comes next, to be honest. I mean, no, this is a really great... It was great in January when, you know, when we got the tribunal ruling. And, I mean, it found that they had violated our dignity, and they had created a really hostile and intimidating environment for us.
Or should I say favoured one group over another, which is exactly what is... That's what's happening in this country. And what happens with the debate is if you stand up like you have, you get accused of being anti-trans, or if you say, I think that's wrong, I'm going to sneeze, that's embarrassing. But the fact of the matter is, we go from one angle in this country too far the other way. That's why I've said about space for trans people. But for you guys to be thrown out, so you bring this case, you win 187,000 in damages, you're still working there. What about colleagues? What about, not just the trans colleague, but what about other colleagues? Well, supportive or what?
People have been supportive sort of quietly. The culture was that no one was allowed to speak up. Yeah. I think everyone felt threatened with letters that they received, and
I mean, there was 26 nurses on our unit originally signed a letter to say that they were uncomfortable with it. And over time, they ended up, some of them withdrew their complaint because they felt so intimidated. They were worried for their jobs. They thought they were going to be disciplined. There is a real fear culture around speaking out. I mean, we were very frightened to speak out at the start. We didn't know what we were going to get. And
are you glad you did?
We have been reported to the NMC.
Are you glad you did? Because I think your heroines, all 7 of you.
Definitely. I mean, it's been exhausting, hasn't it?
It has.
Quite stressful.
It's not come without, you know...
personal costs.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, we've all been reported to the NMC, so we have to be investigated for that because of our views. Which, I mean, that's been hanging over us for the last 16 months. So it's been a huge battle. We've had endless Zoom calls with the legal team, the stress from just the intimidation from the management. It's been a real stress.
I'll tell you something, Darlington 7, I think it's total respect in every single which way, and the County Durham and Darlington NHS Foundation Trust have learnt that actually, you know, everybody has rights, but it's like nowadays, I said this the other day on the show, that the boss of a massive media organisation, Thomas, isn't racist, it's a comment, that if you're white and middle class and you come out of university with a journalistic degree, you're behind the 8 ball, because there's so much diversity and inclusivity, and some of that is, I'm sure, fine, but it's gone so far the other way that normal, common-sense approach to anything's gone out the window. And listen, fair play. What do you do with the money, then? You're going off on holiday, or is it legal expenses? What are you doing?
Well, I think we'll all be paying off a few debts, to be honest.
Well, I think you're heroines, every one of you, and we really appreciate your time on the show this morning. Thank you so much indeed. Lisa, Lockley and Anise Grundy, part of the Darlington 7, who yesterday were awarded £187,000 in damages. They were brave enough to take legal action against the County Durham and Darlington NHS Foundation Trust because a biological man, was allowed to use the female changing room. And when they complained, the transgender colleague was allowed to stay in the female changing room, and they were put in an office, for God's sake. 0344 499 1000. This. Oh, hello. Let's say good morning to Laura. Hello, Laura.
Morning, Jeremy. Laura in Wiltshire. I've heard you ask various people this morning, guests, whether they think Andy Burnham's got the political capital or bravery or whatever to do what needs to be done. But the list of things you're suggesting It's just not a chance. He's a socialist. These are not things he wants to do. I think that people are living in la-la land and really hope over expectation that he might start drilling and do any of these things. I'd love to be proved wrong, but these are reform policies. They are not Labour policies.
Thank you, Laura. 9:45, Julia in 15 minutes. 0344 499 1000. Just that breaking news. A new YouGov poll has come out in the last 15 minutes. It says that Britons right now feel that Andy Burnham would be a better party leader by 43 to 23% against Nigel Farage, much closer with Badenoch 32 to 28. None of that takes into consideration the popularities of parties, but that is a poll. Let's get our last guest on this morning, a man, a former police detective, brilliant legend, who's become a stand-up legend as well, touring the world. Peter Bleksley, good morning.
Good morning.
What do you make of that? Actually, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to tell you my joke, get you into the right frame of mind for the show. A Blairite, a Brownite and a Corbynista get into a taxi. The driver says, "Where do you want to go, Mr. Burnham?" That's as much as you get from Bleksley. What do you make of, before we talk about the police story, what do you make of the madness of this week? 12 days ago, this guy wasn't an MP. He's now going to be anointed as Prime Minister, Pete.
I just shake my head at how fundamentally Labour have carried out a very Tory party coup on their own leader. You just simply couldn't make this stuff up. They spent months and months and months campaigning before the general election about change, about stability, about how they'll be so different from what went before. And yet, less than 2 years into Starmer's premiership, they got rid of him. It's absolutely astonishing. And what comes next deeply, deeply troubles me. Take a look at the track record, and I mean a close, scrutinised, in-depth look at the track record of Burnham in Manchester. Don't believe the Labour hype. Go and search out the facts. Have a look at my social media, the feed this morning, where I've reposted a very insightful piece of writing from a great learned writer, and see what actually happened under his leadership in Manchester. And then be afraid. Be very afraid.
I was quite interested earlier with Isabel Oakeshott because I just wanted to paint a scenario which I want to paint with you. We've spoken for years. Let's just say that Burnham not wins, because he is going to win. Let's just say that he decides that he's got the political capital or credit in the bank, or he's got a pair of cojones big enough, and he stands in front of those 400 MPs and he says, right, you can't get rid of me for 3 years because you can't do that again, but I'm going to tell you the truth, and the truth is this. Unless you lot allow me to do something about a ridiculous welfare benefits bill, unless you allow me to start drilling in the North Sea and getting some finance in, not only will you all lose your seats, but this party will be extinct. And they go, all right, Andy, can you see that happening? Because as Isabel pointed out, if he does either one of those, that neuters the Tories and reform in almost a heartbeat, many people think. And that's an interesting point. Would he do it? I don't think so, but I'm interested in your thoughts, my friend.
Well, apart from welfare and drilling in the North Sea, he would also have to add to that list, if he is going to satisfy the great British public, he needs to get a grip on illegal immigration. Yeah. These boats actually do need to be stopped. And there also needs to be a very forthright attitude towards deporting tens upon tens upon tens of thousands of people who should not be in this country. And I am talking deportations by the plane load, the boat load, the truckload, howsoever it is done. That has to be added to the list. He also needs to reduce taxes, because the tax burden on Britain and business is just way, way too heavy. He needs to focus more widely on the energy policies as well, because high energy costs are crippling this nation.
Do you think he'll do? Do you think he has? There's the question. I didn't disagree with you at all. I picked two. There's 132. Has he got the courage or the political capital to make decisions that Starmer ran away from?
Has he got the political will? Is that Andy Burnham type policies? Is that what he believes in? Is that what he wants to do? Or will Britain continue to limp towards the abyss with management like the Darlington 7 have had to suffer, like captured public services, be it the police, well, the NHS, local public, don't fly your flag in Oxfordshire, and all these kind of things. Will he strip out the wokery, the progressiveness, as they call it, the liberalism instilled by Blair that has spread like Japanese knotweed and is strangling the life out of our culture, our values, our institutions, and the very way of being British and what being British stands for? No, of course he won't.
No, but he won't. That's absolutely the answer, because at the end of the day, as with Starmer, and this is the point, there are so many different facets to the tent in which all the Labour MPs and followers sit under, and it's very much like the Tories, Pete. You know, Badenoch, very impressive yesterday, probably the right leader at the wrong time, but the party brand is toxic and Labour's party brand is toxic. Let's discover, if we can, your response to a story that, I mean, doesn't go away. Nobody could possibly forget the killing of Henry Novak, that poor kid who was stabbed in the street by Vikram Digra, 23, jailed for life, wasn't he, over the stabbing in December in Southampton, got 21 years. There was absolute outrage. That's going to be appealed. Hopefully that'll be made forever. But there was real consternation when we saw the figures, the police not listening, or he said, I've been stabbed, they're not even listening, they're cuffing him, they're favouring the guy who did it because he's a Sikh and he said it's a racist attack, and there was an outpouring against the police. We find out today police officers took 8 minutes, Pete, to discover the stab wound that killed Henry Novak. That's newly disclosed evidence. For 8 minutes they didn't look and the kid died on the floor. This is outrageously disgraceful.
Of course it is, but let's remember that the police have willingly pushed the lie that actually it was only 3 minutes. That's Hampshire Police for you, under the leadership of Chief Constable Alexis Boone, who, quite frankly, should be sent packing as far away from modern British policing as is humanly possible. This story, this outrageous, disgraceful, disgusting, tragic, heartbreaking story is going to run and run and run, because the Digwa family, members of it, still face further criminal charges, so I won't go any further on that. There will, of course, be a coroner's inquest into Henry's brutal murder. That will be very, very interesting to hear. I'm sure there is an independent Office of Police Conduct investigation currently ongoing into the actions of those officers. So young Henry Novak's case will be around for a very, very, very long time. And moreover, those words uttered by that police officer to young Henry as his life ebbed away from him, after Henry said repeatedly, I've been stabbed, and the police officer turned around and said, I don't think you have, mate. Wow. Those words should be at the top of every presentation of every police training class from now until eternity, because it sums up what is so very wrong with British policing and our wider institutes, who are captured, who are ruined, who are failing us all.
I literally couldn't agree anymore. Just quickly, you said something in the midst of that. Alexis Boone, the Chief Constable of Hampshire Police. Today we discover it took 8 minutes to discover the stabbing, which means, and I'm just filling in the gaps, the kid could have been saved. He tried to say it was 3 minutes. He lied about it, and he's still in a job.
Well, Hampshire Police were very happy to go along with the narrative that came out earlier that said it only took officers 3 minutes to discover that Henry had been stabbed. We now find it is 8 minutes. The lack of truth coming out of Hampshire Police, Hampshire Constabulary, and the mealy-mouthed, pathetic statement that Boone gave eventually to the public is utterly appalling. Boone needs to go. British policing is in crisis. The College of Policing, with their race action plans and their other directives that are discriminatory, that are racist against white people, that are plainly wrong, all need to be thrown in the bin. We actually need a revolution in terms of British policing, as we do with so many of our other public institutions, to bring that pendulum back that has swung so far to the loony, lefty, liberal, progressive, woke, fluffy and actually intolerant left. Bring it back to the centre.
Couldn't agree more, mate. Love having you on. How's the tour going? Where are you?
It's wonderful. I've got a few days break now. I'm not back on stage till July the 5th. So I'm thoroughly enjoying a bit of downtime.
Got shorts on underneath that shirt and tie?
I most certainly have.
Do you, just running, do you or have you ever had a pedicure?
Yes, I had a pedicure yesterday, and I now have Flag of St George large toenails. You can see them on X.
See, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just me. Real men, real coppers, real DJs, men, proper men have their feet done, don't they, Pete?
Yes, and also have their large toenails painted with the cross of St George, which is what I'm currently sporting.
Right, I'm going to send 6 armed police round to arrest you. Thanks for being on the amazing Peter Bleksley, former Met Police detective, back on his one-man show from the 5th of July. Fantastic to hear from him. The daft new MP with the fluctuating Scottish accent, is she trying to be Taggart, says Alex in Liverpool. I think there's been a murder! Talk.
You've got to be single-minded about your plan. You've got to follow through and not back down. The geography helps countries like Australia, but also the UK. I mean, across Europe, you know, they look the other way. I think unintentionally, all those years ago, one regulation changes in a province in Germany, and all of a sudden you get a wave of mass migration. The thing about immigration is this: if you get it wrong, the consequences are generational.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Can I just say, because I never get a chance to thank the greatest team in British radio, but they're not here, so thank you to Christian. Ha ha! The best producer, Tommy. Where am I going to be tomorrow? He's not here. It's his birthday. Happy birthday for tomorrow. Won't tell you what he's doing because he's like, honestly, like royalty. Big Mark, are you here on Friday? No? Brilliant. OK. You're on a course tomorrow. Brilliant. Christian, Nahar and me will be here. 0344 499 1000. James, good morning.
Morning, Jez. James from Liverpool here. Another glorious day in our political world, isn't it? Just listening to Trump there, and he's absolutely nailed it, and this just proves how stupid this Labour Party are. Yes, millions of barrels of oil under the North Sea and immigration. There's the two things, but does this Labour Party listen? No, they carry on with the madness of Ed Miliband and the one-in-one-out scheme. How'd that go? And smashing the gangs. That can go well, and it could even smash an egg. Have a great day, my friend. I'm really, really happy today. I'm sure by 10 o'clock you'll have knocked that out of me. Cheers, pal. Bye-bye.
Good man. Thank you very much indeed. So Julia is on from 10, Ian Collins from 1 o'clock, and Kevin O'Sullivan with Drive from 4 o'clock. Jez, we've been massively gaslit again. Burnham's been shoehorned in through the back door. Starmer gets off scot-free after the damage he's done, and it will be the same for those cabinet ministers who have also lost their jobs. Joe says it's not hot in England. I'm in Thailand. A very good morning. Julia Hartley-Brewer.
Very good morning to you.
How are you?
I'm all right, you know. Managed to get the bedroom down from 30 degrees to 29 degrees last night.
Did you sleep?
Well done. Oh, ish, yes. Wish I had aircon, but, you know, apparently my local council, Camden in North London, doesn't let you have aircon. Well, they've stopped people having aircon.
We've been having this debate all morning. Are we going to really for 4 days a year, although they say it's going to become
Well, here's
more
the thing.
relevant?
I keep thinking I might get one of those portable units. I know the moment I do that, all of our summers will be rubbish from now on.
I can make it better for you. I